Wake up. It's time for Primal Scream.
I think I'm good. And welcome back to the Primal Scream. I'm Matt.
And I'm Todd.
You know, I was going to do a different intro tonight. I was going to do something like, no, I wasn't going to do that. I was going to say like, good evening, how you doing? And I won't do that. I'm not going to do that.
Really creepy. Sorry, buddy.
Is it really creepy?
It's creepy.
Why would it be creepy?
It just sounds kind of
Welcome back to the Primal Scream. I'm Matt, your favorite uncle who's staring at you through the two-way glass. No?
So
All right. Sorry about that. Anyway, tonight we have Rich Moritz with us. Yes, sir?
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about sacred geometry. But before we get into that, and believe me, people, if you don't know what sacred geometry is, Google it or YouTube it or just stick with us because we're going to be talking all about sacred geometry tonight. And I will have photos and different things like that on YouTube if you're listening to this in your car on MP3 or downloadable media device.
Scrunch sound.
Scrunch sound?
Yeah, MP3s are compressed.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about some other type thing. Or iTunes. If you're doing that, that's great. But if you're watching it on YouTube, you're going to be able to see some cool visuals that I will have in the program to help explain what we're talking about with sacred geometry. But before we get into that, and before we get into Rich, we're going to play a little Cards Against Humanity. I actually have like an applause thing, like sound effects.
You do, don't you?
It's over there. I can't reach it.
Don't you use it for the band?
I do, but that's in post-production. Maybe I'll put that in there. Maybe
That sounds like a lot of work to me.
it does sound like a lot of work. Hey, Todd, for everybody who doesn't know how to play Cards Against Humanity, how does one play Cards Against Humanity?
Well, the idea behind it is kind of like apples to apples. You have white cards, and we each have 10 tonight. Those are kind of like answer cards, and the black cards are the question cards, so to speak. And it's extremely vile game. It's sexist and racist and misogynistic and anti-Semite and I always mess that up. It's not
Semitic?
No, if I'm an anti-Semite. Anti-Semitic. Does that sound right?
Listen,
I don't know.
you don't have to go.
But
You're really trying hard to say that we hate Jewish people.
There you
that's
go.
not it.
Well, no, I'm not saying we do. I'm just saying the game is like that. So
It just has no. You know what? How about this?
Has no
This is a
filter?
nice way of describing a card game that is pretty rough. It has no boundaries.
perfect.
If you want to play a card game
And the
that has no
first and
boundaries.
number one rule to get started is who had their most recent bowel movement.
Yes,
and that's
sir.
actually in the box, and that's part of the rules. Get to go first. So
Todd.
I've been doing pretty good with my greens and my smoothies. I want to say it was 1 o'clock this afternoon, right after lunch.
Oh.
Yeah,
Rich?
He's got me beat. That's this
All right.
morning.
So
This morning.
This morning, you're definitely going to go. I was.
Have you even pooped today?
I don't know,
See, it's.
I
Not
don't think
good,
I
man.
have.
It's not good.
but I tell you what I did do. I did go down to Nubo Market and I got 2 bottles of the greens.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I can't wait to ingest
'Cause
that
it's so
after
hard
I
for
do
you
all
to do it
my.
yourself. Why don't you do it yourself?
I did do it myself the other day, but then I had to take back all my bottles.
Oh, that's right. They have that big, thick bottle deposit. I like that,
Yeah.
though. Those bottles are
I
sick.
do like the bottles.
That's
all
very
right.
nice.
So,
Sweet.
Todd, you're starting.
Okay.
Sir, go ahead and read your first black card. And you and I, sir, we get to peruse the white cards.
Oh, it's a twofer.
All right.
Nice. Oprah's book of the month is Blank for Blank, a story of hope. Oprah's book of the month club is Blank for Blank, a story of hope.
All right, this is
clear.
all right,
vision
so-
right now. Okay, sorry. So
So
I'll
top-
close my eyes. The top card, if you put them face down, the one on
See?
top I'll read first, and the one on the bottom I'll read second.
Like this? Okay, like this, Rich? All right. First card, first response. Okay. So if you could put both of those, are you all right?
I opened one eye to look at the card, and it was my bad eye, and I couldn't read.
Come on, dude. Get your act together. We're live.
We're on live television.
People are watching us over and over again.
Mhm,
All right,
yeah,
now listen.
Totally enthralled.
Todd, open
Yes.
your eyes. Let's get with the ball game, pal.
All right. So, Oprah's Book of the Month Club is filling every orifice with butterscotch pudding with butterscotch pudding for preteens, A Story of Hope. Oprah's book of the month is
Rich, that was kind of
Dry Heaving for Hot Pockets, A Story of Hope. That wins for sure.
Dry heaving for Hot Pockets. Excellent. Excellent.
Very well done.
Rich, you get to keep that black card
That card
as
is
a token
yours.
of a
Awesome,
point.
Awesome.
So you go ahead and read one of your black cards, sir.
Okay. Simple question. What's that sound?
You're making a lot of mouth noises over there. You okay?
Sorry, yeah. I was singing. What's that sound? What's that?
All right.
All right.
Now, Rich,
All right.
go ahead and read your card again and each response
Okay.
in turn.
What's that sound? Zeus's sexual appetites. And Roadhead.
What's that sound?
What's that? What's that sound?
Roadhead.
Roadhead.
Oh, that's gross.
What are you going to go with, sir?
Boy, that's a tough one.
See what your lady had to deal with when she was here?
I guess I'm going to go with the Zeus's sexual appetites.
Thank you. I knew my crowd.
You know what? I'm
this
just
from
going to
you,
be
sir.
me. I'm just going to be me, Todd.
And
That's all I can do.
I'm going to win for the third time. Thanks.
Man, you're awfully sure of yourself.
I'm bringing it tonight.
All right.
buddy.
The Smithsonian Museum of Natural History has just opened an interactive exhibit on. The Smithsonian Museum of Natural History has just opened an interactive exhibit on blank. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. This is, I don't know why I'm having such a hard time saying Smithsonian. The Smithsonian Museum Natural History has just opened an interactive exhibit on shutting the fuck up.
That's one of my favorite white cards always. I love that.
Interactive. Shut the fuck up. The Smithsonian Museum of Natural History has just opened an interactive exhibit on a bleached asshole. All right. Now, I thought for sure the shutting the fuck up was from Todd because
How do you know it's not?
it could be. But then I read the second card and I thought, Rich is really
Twisted.
He's
He's a
no,
twisted
he's-
dude. That's what I think
he's
too.
relaxing. He's understanding who he's sitting with. Okay. I'm going to say an interactive exhibit on shutting the fuck up because that makes me giggle.
Well, guess what?
Is that you?
Nope.
Oh, that a boy, Rich. Oh, here. Oh, you take that, sir. Great job. I like that.
I tried to manipulate it more, but it didn't work.
You really had me messed up there for a second. Okay.
I know it. All right, here we
Next set.
go. All right, it's a one for this month's Cosmo. Spice it up.
It's a one for.
It's a one. Well, I want to give you a heads up so you're not trying to shuffle fast.
Okay.
This month's Cosmo. Spice up your sex life by bringing blank into the bedroom. This month's Cosmo. Spice up your sex life by bringing blank into the bedroom. I would love to get like a speaking gig, a voiceover. Yeah. Peace
Shut your
Tree
eye-
Brewing Company.
Shut your good eye.
Shut your good eye.
Thank
yeah,
you.
thank you, Rich.
Okay, Rich, it's too early, buddy. It's too soon.
All right, open your good eye and read that one
You
card.
got it. All right.
Where are they at?
This month's Cosmo. Spice up your sex life by bringing a defective condom into the bedroom. I like that one. It's horrible, but that's funny.
Surprise.
This month's Cosmo. Spice up your sex life by bringing a gender identity that can only be coveted through slam poetry into the bedroom.
Conveyed, not coveted, conveyed. Listen, open up both eyes and then close your good eye and read it with your bad
I was
eye.
trying to do too much. I'm going to say, I'll do it with gender identity.
Thanks, buddy. You knew that was mine because I
I
corrected
thought it was
you.
good. We'll see. Rich liked it too.
That was a good one.
That was very smart.
Seriously, a gender identity only conveyed through slam poetry.
I haven't heard that one before. That's great.
I've never even seen slam poetry.
Oh,
What's that
excellent.
about?
That's good stuff. Good stuff.
Rich, you're up, sir.
All right.
On our way around.
Last card. In the distant future, historians will agree that blank marked the beginning of the America's decline.
All right, sir, you're up.
All right. Let's see what we got here. In the distant future, historians will agree that blank marked the beginning of the America's decline. So in the distant future, historians will agree that the female orgasm marked the beginning of America's decline. Or in the distant future, historians will agree that tasteful side boob will mark the beginning of America's decline.
That's good too. Subtle.
Notice how we blamed America's subtle decline on women?
I did notice that. I just thought it was funny and rude.
I'm going to have to go with...
We're really pushing you tonight.
This is tough. You guys are so evenly matched.
I hate it, but I hate him. Isn't that weird? I hate him so much, and we're so evenly matched.
Tasteful side boob.
Oh, damn it!
Are we tied, Todd? You and I?
Yeah, we are. So the win can only happen with I can only win.
We can tie, or you can win. That's how it's going to go.
No, Rich, you have to.
I have to.
I can tie with.
How many do you got?
One. I can tie with him. And that's the best I can do. But as long as I beat you, that's really all that matters.
Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm. Okay. I shouldn't have done that.
One of those you won, didn't you?
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. It's a twofer. It's a twofer, ladies and gentlemen. Woo, woo. They said we were crazy. They said we couldn't put blank inside of blank. They were wrong. They said we were crazy. They said we couldn't put blank inside of blank. They were wrong. Kind of like you can't put nutrition into healthy, edible snacks. They were wrong. All right, my eyes are closed. That was a little plug for Sweet Raw Joy. If you haven't checked out Sweet Raw Joy, go to sweetrawjoy.com. Food to live for.
I don't have a good
nothing.
I have shit.
Oh God.
Let's see.
I have low expectations right now. Yeah, Sweet Raw Joy is one of those things. They're like little medallions of love because there's effort put into it. Handmade. Can I say that, Rich? Handmade.
Yes, indeed. That is the truth.
But I mean, you're using a blender, but it's still.
Yes. Yeah, there's no hands inside the blender.
Thank God.
Are we ready? Should I open them?
I think you're ready.
We're
Go.
All right, here we go. And I'm going to have a little Sweet Raw Joy here in a little bit because you know what else?
I'm looking forward to.
You know what goes great with Sweet Raw Joy?
Beer.
Surprisingly enough, something that's really good for you.
It's like milk because it's bland and that's sweet. That's why it works. Chocolate cake and beer is one of my favorite things to eat.
Really?
It's good.
Is that why you're fat?
Probably.
I'm messing with you.
I know you are.
All right, here we go.
I'm not quite as reactionary as I normally am. I apologize. I'm very thoughtful tonight.
No, you're very good. All right. I just wanted our listeners to know, geez, Matt's a dick.
Or
no,
Todd's
I'm
extremely quiet tonight for some reason.
Playing. They said we were crazy. They said we couldn't put a box that is conscious and wishes it weren't a box inside of heteronormativity. Heteronormativity.
Nice.
Heteronormativity. We had that with Nick Snavely. And does anybody know? Does anybody need help knowing what that is?
I can't remember.
Heteronormativity is like missionary style. Like you're really into just like normal.
Oh.
I think that's
just
what it is.
Missionary style, or are you like black coffee with one sugar and one cream? I mean, what's normal? It has to do with sex.
Here's the deal. You watch this podcast on YouTube, put a comment. If you know what heteronormativity is, comment on it. All right, next. They said we were crazy. They said we couldn't put Asians who aren't good at math inside of embryonic stem cells. They were wrong. There's brains in both of this, and that's why it's throwing me.
The best part is I got to act like I'm really smart because I'm trying to throw you off.
God, you are doing a great job at throwing me off today.
Rich is a very smart guy, and I'm not quite at that level.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking for like the smart response.
Well, it's not too bad if I'm faking it pretty good. It's not too shabby.
You are faking it really good.
All right, dude.
I'm going to say Asians who aren't good at math, embryonic stem cells. Who's
good
that?
job.
All right.
Oh, damn! You son of a nutcracker. Way to fool me.
All right, we
Maybe
tied,
I should have
buddy.
went with heteronormativity because Rich was like, yeah, shit, yeah, I know what that is.
Do you have 2 as well?
Yeah.
So we all tied.
We all tied. It was a 3-way.
Wow.
Yeah, that's gross.
Oh, wait. Jeez. All right. Now that we're done with that nonsense, Rich, explain yourself, sir. You said in your email to us, man, my other stuff's going slow. Okay. You said, and I quote, I use 3D software to better understand the Platonic solids, termed by Plato as sacred geometry in ancient sites. I work with vortex math and have been inspired by the work of physicist
Nassim Haramein.
especially seen in this video titled Black Hole. And if you spell hole, it's WHOLE. Hobbies include organic no-till gardening, 3D design, and animation and printing and beekeeping. Oh,
Yes.
let's not forget art.
Yes,
Sir,
indeed.
sir, you are an eclectic fella. Okay. First of all, I'm going to talk about, I want to talk about one thing.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with sacred geometry,
Okay.
except for it does, because everything has to do with sacred geometry. The first thing is, Rich, have you seen, you said beekeeping. Have you
Yes.
seen this amazing fucking thing? Check out the monitor, sir.
All right.
Have
It's
you
pretty
seen
neat.
this? Now I'm going to play it, and it is on YouTube, but there is no advertisements associated with the video. Therefore, we can play it.
These 2 jars of honey came out of that beehive there without opening the hive, without disturbing the bees. It's something we've been working on for a decade, and we're nearly at the point where we can tell you all about it.
Oh, it's amazing. It's amazing. It's honey on tap.
Have you seen this, Rich?
You know, somebody was telling me about it the other day,
This system is just blows my mind.
but no, I haven't seen it yet.
I mean, to be able to turn a tap and have honey flow out, that's gold. You can't get much better than that.
Actually, I was very excited too when it actually worked. You know, when I actually put the tubes in and watched the honey come out, I was sitting there going, what?
All right, let's get that right there. That is an awesome visual, is it not?
Yeah.
Golly.
Look at that drizzle. Straight out of the hive. This is as fresh as honey could possibly be.
We will have this invention live on Kickstarter on the 23rd, and we really need your help to get the word out there, to build a buzz and build a community of beekeepers around the globe.
Keeping bees in an entirely new way.
All right, now let me tell you something. Here's the bullshit thing about this.
There's a bullshit thing about it?
Yeah, they put it on Kickstarter. We had something on Kickstarter. They asked to reach a goal, and you would think, Rich, that you can only do, like if somebody said, hey, are you going to give a good effort? You're going to say, I'm going to give it 100%. Does it annoy you at all when somebody goes, I'm going to give it 110%?
Yeah.
You can't give 110% unless you're doing a Kickstarter. Because if you're doing Kickstarter and you ask for a goal, you can get 4,000% of your goal,
And
which
that's-
is annoying. That's the bullshit thing.
especially when you don't reach your goal.
Yeah, ours, we didn't reach our goal. Boo-hoo. I'm feeling sorry for myself. But these guys actually reached over 4,000% of the donations that they were hoping to bring in to
Wow.
bring this product to life.
And now you
And,
can buy it. You can buy it online.
And
It's
now
pretty
you can
cool.
buy it. So you can have your own beehive, let those sons of bitches do whatever, pollinate, make wax, wheat bees,
Well,
whatever.
you can look it up more when we're done, but it takes the hexagons,
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
and just shifts them, and the honey just
So once
flows
you break
out.
that seal, then
Yeah.
it just flows right
That
down.
down.
Interesting.
is when I saw it, I was like, oh,
So you
my
you don't
goodness.
have to use steam,
Smoke.
you know, or
Oh, the smoker?
fog.
Yeah,
you don't have to
yeah.
fog them out. You
Yeah,
know,
Yeah.
you don't have to freak them all out.
And that doesn't bother them at all. That's on the back. You just crank this little thing at the top. It comes out the back. The bees are all on the other side. They don't bug you. It's, excuse the pun. It's great.
So that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. I thought you would appreciate that, sir, when I saw that you did beekeeping or that
Yeah,
you enjoy
yeah.
that.
Well, that's going to be a huge back saver. You know, one of those boxes that have honey in it, When it's full, it's 80 pounds.
Just to pull up one screen is 80
No, the box
pounds?
itself with
whole
all
the whole box.
The whole box.
The whole
Yeah, it'll
hive.
Have, yeah, it'll have, 10 to 14 screens in it. But yeah.
Do you send your bees out of state in the winter?
No. Well, this will be my first year doing it, and I intend to overwinter my bees.
What's
what's
that
that-
mean?
yeah, what's that mean?
Overwinter?
Basically, you just leave them in the hive, and I'm actually going to wrap them with black tar paper to help soak up the sun's energy, and keep them warm inside. And
They will be in the house.
no, they'll be out in the bee yard.
What's wrong with you?
I'm
You're going to bring a beehive into the house?
People do that. People bring their bees into the garage or the basement.
I
People
want
do that.
one person who does that to
I
call
heard.
me.
Yes.
Call
Don't
me
call.
right now if you're one of those people because you're fucking crazy. Who would bring a beehive into their home?
Well, I mean, but the bees are on a hibernation cycle anyway, so it's not like you have bees, a hive of bees looking for pollination in your house. They're like you still wrap it. It still just sits there.
Yeah.
There's just no bees coming out. They're all kind of asleep.
Yeah, during the winter, they actually huddle around the queen and they create a ball of bees, and it's the only insect that can actually generate their own heat.
Flapping its wings,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
They all buzz and
all buzz.
right?
So yeah. So they'll,
Okay,
they'll,
I've
they'll-
seen that.
I watch
I got
YouTube.
it.
I watch YouTube all day long at work, so I learn a little something here and there.
I've thought about being a beekeeper. I think it'd be awesome, but I was like, I don't know if I can
Yeah.
ship them all off to California when I have friends who have it that ship theirs off to California every winter, and I was like, wow, that sounds expensive to me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's where mine are coming from.
are coming from California?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
But I honestly don't think I'd be a beekeeper unless I got that thing. Because that, I mean, I'm not trying to be lazy, but it seems like it's convenient, and I don't want to get stung. I don't have to put the suit on. You don't have to do all the stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And they're only I think they're like $300 for, I think like one of the slats.
What?
Yeah.
That's crazy expensive.
I don't know.
That's
If you-
crazy expensive for 2 rows of plastic that all you do is
Inside the
box.
box, I think you have to have the box. You have to have. It's not just those pieces of plastic. You have to buy.
I could see. I
could.
could see myself spending $300 for the entire thing. I could see that. Because if I had to spend $300 for each row, and then I gotta think ahead and like, what's my hospital bill is going to be like when my kids get stung? Does anybody have anaphylactic shock?
You're bad.
No.
Yes.
All right, $300. That's an expensive little gig. That's for one little thing. Anyway, I think it's really cool. And if you want more information about that, check it out for yourself.
Their goal was 70,000, and they got 5 million. That's insane. It's good for them though. That's so exciting.
And that's the power of crowdfunding and Kickstarter and websites like Kickstarter. Which, by the way, really quick little plug for us, we have another crowdfunding thing called on Indiegogo. Go to Indiegogo.com, type in TPSP, and that is my production company that makes all this possible to bring cool people on, talk about interesting, amazing subjects. I've been stoked. I've been excited, on the edge of my seat since Todd told me you were going to come on and talk about sacred geometry. He goes, "Hey man, Rich is going to come on." I'm like, "Are you shitting me? We're going to talk about sacred geometry?" He goes, "What the fuck is sacred geometry?"
Well, of course I hadn't. We've talked about it in passing on the podcast before about the pyramids and the perfection of
and how it blows my mind, and
yeah.
he gets tired. He's like, "I'm tired already." I'm like, "No, you can't get tired." Because
No, it does make like I said, it does make my brain hurt a little bit.
But to
'cause I'm
bring
not very
somebody
good at
else
math.
in to better articulate some of my awe in structures like that, some of my awe in nature and in space and all that stuff. So thank you, sir, for coming in and helping me out. Be a little bit more.
Well, and I think when I think of sacred geometry, I think of a nautilus shell. That's where I think I've associated with the most.
Oh yeah, it's very integrated with that. Yeah.
And I think even inside that spiral, is it squares that fit inside there from small to big kind of thing, or no?
Well, what
Am I
you're
off?
No. That's
Okay.
that is one way of constructing that.
You know
spiral.
what? Let's start. Let's go back. Let's go back to
your
the
show,
beginning.
buddy. You're
It's
very
not
excited
my
about
show.
this.
It's tonight. It is.
Yeah, you're very excited.
But let's start at the beginning. Let's back up a little bit. Rich, for those people who are watching or listening, in your own words, what is your definition of sacred geometry? What does it mean? What is it, and what does it kind of mean to you?
Okay. Well, sacred geometry, also known as the Platonic solids, they're 5 specific shapes. They're 5 solid forms, and the definition of them, they have to have equal sides, equal angles, and equal faces. And there's only 5 shapes that do that. And the cube is the easiest one to recognize. It's pretty simple. From there, you have a tetrahedron, which is basically a 4-sided object with all equilateral triangles. And for anybody who's ever played, something like Dungeons and Dragons, they have all these dice with the different faces on and stuff. Well, the tetrahedron is a 1D, or a 4D. The
dice number 4 from
dice number 4. Yeah.
You can see it up on the screen there.
Yeah. And then you have the octahedron, and from there you've got a icosahedron and dodecahedron. And back in the time of Plato, when they did I don't know if it was called a mystery school or just they had these sacred geometry teachings, and whenever you uttered the word dodecahedron outside the circle, it meant instant death. You were killed.
No shit. No kidding. Because it was so sacred.
Yeah.
That type of knowledge, that type of once you and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm getting a little excited. I'm jumping the gun here.
No, that's cool.
But when you understood angles and you understood the math and you understood how these shapes and how unique they were and how it corresponds to all these other things that you could look at, the stars and the heavens, to take something so valuable as that secret or that shape and be like, oh, here, let me just utter it outside and give it to the masses. No.
Well, see, I think I'm probably a little more advanced from the masses back then. And he said 2 or 3 words that I don't know what those things are.
Are you talking about like the tetrahedron and the...
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just the name of a shape.
I understand that, but I don't even have that picture in my brain. I will see it, and that's great, and I'm excited. I'm just saying that I don't even get it. So if somebody said, hey, did you hear about the dexahedron? I'd be like, oh my God, you're going to die. No, I'd be like, I'm sorry, Gesundheit. I'm not sure what you said. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of hard for me to just like, so they said what word outside of here? The masses really know what that word meant. I'm sorry, I'm just being kind of devil's advocate.
Well, I have the website up here. It's smphillips.8m.com, and it shows the Platonic solids, has their names and a visual of their shapes, but it also talks about their sides and their masses and all that stuff. The geometrical composition of the 5 Platonic solids. Okay, so how did you get into this, and why does it mean anything to you?
Well, I started hearing about, back in the day, there was a liberal arts degree that you could get. And this was, the very first colleges. And it was a degree that really meant something then. And it was because they taught the trivium and the quadrivium. And
which is, I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, the trivium is all about rhetoric and, it's all about language and using proper language to describe things, because nowadays when we speak, we can change the meaning of a word, like bad is good now and that kind of thing.
Okay.
So the trivium taught precise language and how to describe things for correct communication. And so that was the first 7 classes of the what would be the liberal arts. The last 4 was called, in its whole package is called a quadrivium. And what it meant was it was about math, music, astronomy, and geometry. So those 4 things were studied together.
Wow.
And you saw the correlation of how everything interacted together. And so after finding out about that, I said, I'm a very visual person. I'm very visual with what I do for a living. And it just was a natural fit to explore that. And for me, I always like to tear things apart and see how they work. And I like to do that with the world too, just to see, why is it that way? And the cool thing about it is when you explore math and find the math behind it, you find the truth, because it's not a word that can be changed in meaning. Math, when you find the equation that works out perfectly, it's the truth. And, so that's kind of why I set down that path and, started exploring it.
Did you watch Good Will Hunting and say, "Oh, that's such bullshit"?
What?
Good Will Hunting? Because
why?
Oh, because I've heard people say that some people say that the math that he's doing on the mirrors and stuff is like all incorrect and not real. And I was like, it looked pretty real to me.
Well, yeah, because we don't know.
Well, exactly, but I mean, it looked like at least it looked like a proof, somewhat of a proof.
Yeah.
And so I've heard people say things like, "Oh, the math, because math is such a truth.
Yes.
You could easily write a proof. He could learn the proof, and it could be a real proof if you wanted to put the time into it, so that people like Rich would be like, hey, shit, that's real. That's a real proof."
Yeah.
And that might, it'd be one more of your audience members who's like, "Oh, they're not trying to bullshit me. That's nice."
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very good movie. I liked it.
I love that movie.
Yeah.
Shit, yeah, I love that. I'm just saying that I've heard people say that math part because he talks so much in there about the math is so much a part of that movie, that and because they talk about the truth of it, it's right there. There's no gray area. It's black and white. Period. Done. So,
I think the appeal to me is close to what you're talking about. It's growing up and having people saying, "Oh, if you go to this church and you do this, even though and you pray and you follow these steps, you're going to be saved." Well, let me see the result. I need to do this and this, and then something has to happen, and nothing ever happened.
I felt better.
Yeah, well, yeah, sometimes, but I mean, with math, I think. I was trying to describe this to my wife earlier, and she said, "Well, why are you fascinated by this? Why does this, tickle your interest so much?" And I thought, because it has an answer. Everything makes sense.
Yeah.
And when anybody is lost in some way, shape, or form, if you're looking for answers and you feel like you're floundering, what's the one thing that is a totally solid foundation? Math. Math is a solid thing. It goes beyond a solid thing. When you start looking deeper into sacred geometry and why is it sacred? What is so cool about it? And then you start bringing up examples of this is how the ratios play out in the human skeleton. And this is how the golden ratio works out in fish and in plants and sunflower.
A bird's wing. It was like all kinds of.
Yeah, all these things. You're like,
things.
wow, that is something solid.
Yeah.
Like what you were saying, you have the equation and there's the answer, and there's no, I shouldn't say there's no mysticism to it, because like Fibonacci's code or the Fibonacci sequence, that kind of flips my lid a little bit. But
why does that flip your lid?
It flips my lid that anybody would just be sitting around one day going, I wonder if, if 1 + 1 is 2 and then 2 + 1 is 3. And I would just keep carrying on with this crazy sequence by the sum. These two numbers, if I take the sum of that and I add it to the previous number, then I get this. And if I just keep going this way, this is how it spirals out. And you're like, dude, were you high? You were high. You must have been sitting around eating brownies going, all right, I don't have a PlayStation. I don't have an Xbox. What's going to take up my time? I'm just going to start adding numbers together until something cool comes out. And that's the appeal for me when you're looking at ancient sites and you're like, how in the fuck did they build those things?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And so
it's amazing because we can't do that. If we could do that today, if we could build something today that we knew was going to be here 2,000 years from now, it would blow my mind. But we don't. We don't. I mean, we would if we could, but we can't, so we don't. That's the whole thing. Everything.
You don't think so?
No.
So so if the world got together, they couldn't build another pyramid?
Obviously they did it once. Obviously people did it at one time in our history somehow. So people did it. But we put more of an emphasis on Beyonce's Go Girl, You Go Girl. girl,
Right.
girl, girl song. We put more emphasis
Oh,
on
so you're
somebody's
just-
ass.
So society in itself,
Society and
was not going to. The current society. Is
I
not
mean,
gonna
we're
pull things
more.
off like that.
I feel like we get so much more wrapped up in, hey, look at this skyscraper that we can build that's just glass and steel, and if we didn't touch it at all, it would completely rust and crumble and deteriorate in 50 years. In 100 years, it'd be gone.
Right.
What about 1,000 years? What if a goddamn asteroid hit the planet and wiped us all out, and there was no more people? What would we be able to show anybody? An alien race, something.
The pyramids from the civilization 2,000 years.
I mean, there's nothing that we're doing today that's of significance
Right.
to our offspring. And
Now, do you think
thousands of years from now.
that's a like they were really forward thinkers? And so they're thinking we're going to build something that's going to last forever. Or was that how they built things back then? 'Cause they used a lot of stone. You know, something that enormous is kind of crazy. But if you're believing in a God and you want to get higher, you'll make something big.
well, that's what
you know?
I almost think like we are primates compared to them. Whereas a lot of people, I think the majority of people look back at those structures and go, oh, they only had copper tools. I mean, come on.
Egyptians made beer, so I think they're right up there with me. I'm totally with it.
I just think if we can't, if I went to school as a 7th grader, I was like, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, we moved blocks around and we made pyramids. All you have to do is this, and this. Well, then, yes, we're more advanced. Yay, we're better. We understand things.
We're more advanced. We might not be better, though. I see what you mean.
You know, but you look back and you're like, how did they fucking do that? How did they do that? And they lined shit up with the equinox and the summer equinox and the winter solstice. And you're like, wow.
Well, and I said this before. I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson, right?
Yeah.
He was talking about how they figured out that the Sphinx was a lion, and then they put a human face on it. And then once they discovered that, they were seeing which way it pointed. And once they saw where it pointed, they looked at what was the constellation behind that object during the time that the whatever stars would have been, and that lined up to Leo. I mean, all those things. I just remember listening to that going along the same lines. You're going, holy, you and I are advanced because we have this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're monkeys. We're monkeys with computers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with what you're saying. It's kind of astounding.
It's backwards, I think, compared to what a lot of people think. As far as back then we're
ancient,
evolved.
it's old.
We're better. We have computers. Yeah, we have planes.
For sure. Yeah, it's a really good point.
Even if you look back at and the other cool thing, I'm dominating this, Rich. I'm going to give it back to you in a second.
Yeah.
The other cool thing is, which I was not arguing, I guess, with my wife about, but I said, if you look at the Sumerian, like there's examples in the Sumerian texts about this stuff, about did they use this stuff to understand the circumference of the earth? How the fuck do you understand the circumference of the earth by sitting in one place on this ball? How do you even know it's a ball? For a long, long time in this brief history of man, people thought it was flat and you were going to sail off the edge of it. And you, who we think are dumb apes who just finally got together and started making laws, how did you figure out that this is a ball? Oh, yeah. And by the way, how did you figure out there's 9 planets out in our solar system, and you carved it into stone and you made them so that they're appropriate sizes to one another? How in the hell did you figure that out?
Is there any explanation for that?
Well, it's a very good question, you know, and it's part of why I'm looking into what I'm looking into, you know, because I want to know the answers. I want to know how they did this, why they did it, and, you know, but the cool thing is, as I've been researching it, I'm finding correlation between different ancient sites where, you know, you would assume that the cultures never had any chance for interaction, and it's like, how in the world did they know to do the same thing?
Right.
You know. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I would think that if they keep finding Viking ships on coasts all over the place, because at that time period they were much more prolific in the oceans than we give them credit for. And then I know that there's been boats from different civilizations in Africa and South America.
The reed boats.
Yeah, I mean, those have been found in different places. I think it's definitely a possibility that they, you know, that there was some
interaction.
I would have to assume, I mean, to assume that there wasn't any because they're not advanced enough is kind of one of those. I think we're figuring out it's kind of one of those ridiculous ways of thinking because absolutely anything is possible. It seems like now because there's just all the pyramids all over the world that are all from different cultures and different times, but they're all kind of the same.
They are all kind of the same, but were they made for the same reasons? When you
Maybe some dude said, "Oh, you know what? That huge pyramid's awesome. Mine's gonna be about half that size because I only have so many people around, and I just wanted to store shit." I mean, they could just be another cultural perspective on something.
But I mean, when you look at the pyramid, if you were to ask yourself, why a pyramid? Well, the pyramid makes the most sense because you want to make something that's trying to reach to the heavens. I'm trying to think of it like I'm a real stupid person.
Please,
I have no idea why
I need that help. So
okay. So if I'm trying to reach the heavens, if I'm trying to reach out to the stars and the constellations and what is just because back then, what we don't have today, which is one of the worst atrocities besides slavery and things like that, is light pollution. And people might scoff and be like, what the fuck are you talking about? But we can't appreciate where we are in the solar system, where our place is in the heavens because of light pollution. I can't look out onto the Milky Way and appreciate its glory every night because we have bazillion watts of light bulbs. That doesn't make sense. We have a lot of light going out from all of our cities, and you have to go to like some pristine, out of the way place to
the middle of Utah, Arches National
or in
Park
Hawaii
or
on top of one of the highest mountain peaks in Hawaii to actually see an unfiltered view of what the ancients saw every night and were inspired by every single night. So when I think of that or try to put myself in that position and I want to reach the heavens, I want to get as high as I can, I wouldn't make a box because somehow I have to get on top of that goddamn box, right? So to get on top of the box, I'm going to have to make a staircase to get up to that box. Okay, now I'm on top of the box. How do I get higher? Well, I make another box. Well, how do I get on top of that box? I make another staircase to the top of that box. If you continue that chain of thought or that line of thought or that way of thinking, you've created all these little boxes with stairs to keep going up higher and higher and higher to finally the smallest box that you can make. And the pyramid is what? A triangle is the strongest shape out there. So why wouldn't the pyramid be something that would last a long, long time, So that's how I kind of break it down. And yeah, I can see why people would make pyramids. It's the one shape that I think would make the most sense to get as high as you could get.
Yeah.
Yeah? Boom. Hey, good night. Thanks a lot, folks, for joining us.
That's a wrap.
Tip your waitress.
Well, speaking of pyramids, the Giza Plateau, they've got the three main pyramids.
Yeah.
And whenever you have 3 points, you can create a curve of some kind. Whenever you have 3 points, any 3 points, you can connect them and create a curve, and it defines that shape. Well, the cool thing about it is with what I do and the software that I use, I actually map that out. I took a Google Earth image of the pyramids and then created everything on the computer and traced over it. And I found that curve, if you continue it out, you can create a perfect Fibonacci spiral with it. And then from there, there's what I call a quantum cross. And the Fibonacci spiral can actually creates 2 straight lines that are perpendicular to each other. And where what I would say is
and you're talking like...
Yeah.
You're talking about this line here and this line here?
Yeah, and see the image up above, the red one, where you've got the 2 cross shape?
Okay.
The X right there?
Yeah.
Well, that spiral I created on the map, and with that cross there, that long line actually intersected right exactly through the center point of the middle pyramid.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And you wonder how math can be applied to other things. There is an example of how people are using what were the shapes again? What were the platonic solids?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Tetrahedron.
Right.
Cube, octahedron.
Well, they're using those shapes to create music and musical notes.
Yeah.
And I can't wrap my primate brain around that. I don't know how you.
That's what the sound is. I guarantee you that's what it is. And I'm gonna freak out. I'm gonna pass out cold.
I always got lost in math class, but I thought it was always I'm sorry, I didn't get lost in all math. But the part of math class when they said, okay, we're going to do like a story problem, and we're going to try to take what we've been learning and we're going to apply it to the real world. And I would always get lost. Like, how are you taking stuff that you're writing down on a piece of paper and applying it to notes or music or anything like that? I've never been able to wrap my brain around it, but there's people who can, and they're constantly almost like waking up to a new reality. You know, it's like you're discovering something all the time, every day, every year. You're going, oh, I didn't even know that was possible. How'd you figure that out? I used the Platonic solids. What? I don't understand. How'd you do that? But I mean, it's another testament of just how cool and how much we don't know, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I want to know more answers. I want to know how all these ancient cultures had all these similar things that obviously are a high level of math and a high level of thinking, period.
Yeah.
That we're able to pull some of these things off. And is it a testament that we know about them because they did last so long, why are we just a offshoot of those cultures? I mean, is our DNA part of what they did, and so we're one step further down the road than they were? So, I mean, I'm just very curious about how that works. And I mean, I think this is why you can have people go, yeah, there's such thing as aliens. Because if you are just a guy pounding on a rock at a fire and you come up with some idea about how the circumference of the planet is, that sounds a little odd.
Well, yeah, it's almost like physicists saying, I have a theory about the black hole. Can you show me a black hole? No, but I have a theory. Dude, that's bullshit. Why don't you just show me a ghost? I got a theory about a goddamn ghost. Why don't you show me ghosts? You can't, and you can't prove it, but that's your theory. But
well,
somebody back then had a theory.
It's the lack of information. It's the lack of something that makes them go, oh, I think there's something there because there's nothing telling me. There's something telling me that something's missing. I don't know what that missing thing is, but it's got to be gray matter.
Who knows? It could be 50 years or 100 years or 1,000 years from now. They're going to take the Platonic solids and figure out what ghosts are. And what spirits are, and how do you reach a different dimension? And if I vibrate my cells at a certain harmonic frequency, then I'll be able to transfer over to the next dimension.
You can be cold-blooded. You can walk around. You never get cold. You can walk around.
Crazy. Change our DNA so that we feed off sunlight.
I want to be green. That'd be great. Photosynthesis.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I just totally forgot.
I messed you up, didn't I?
Messed me up.
God, I'm sorry, dude.
Well, Richard, do you? I mean, I'm not going to ask you if you believe in aliens. Do you?
Do you believe in aliens? Come on, dude. I'm not going to judge you.
He hasn't seen proof that there isn't aliens. Is it one of those things?
I have an open mind about it.
That a boy.
Well, if you go by mathematics, the chances are there's something else out there that's ridiculous to think otherwise. Did you when you see scientific movies like Interstellar? Did you see Interstellar?
Oh, I've seen Interstellar like 3 times.
I've seen it 3 or 4 times.
Is it because of the special effects, or is it because of the idea?
It's the idea behind it.
Yeah.
And what really rocks me about that movie is the end when he's inside the Tesseract, which is a 5-dimensional cube, basically. And I actually have a little video in my clip in my presentation that I do. Tesseract is kind of that next step in evolution as far as, we're in, people think we're in 3-dimensional reality, but honestly, we're really in 4th dimensional. And it's not that hard to explain because, we're in this room right now and it's got the 3 dimensions. But, 5 minutes from now, it'll be a different room because it's in space and time. It's, in a different position, technically. And so we really are in a 4th dimensional reality.
That's interesting.
And so the Tesseract in that movie was showing that 5th dimension where time is no longer a linear element. It's just like the dimensions of the room. You can go to that point in time and that point in time and that point in time. And that's what I thought was cool about it. They did an awesome job of explaining it.
And I watched that and I thought, I wish I was a little bit smarter because I know that I'm kind of missing something with that Tesseract. I knew that there was a piece that I was missing that I was like going, okay.
All right, so we're not talking about the Avengers, correct? We're not using the Tesseract from the Avengers. It's the same word. I don't want people to be listening to it and go, wait a minute, are they talking about the
I'm not
glowing?
so into the Avengers.
Are they talking about the glowing blue?
No, nothing glowing blue.
Cube?
But I like, and see, because of me, because I'm not quite so, because I'm not the sharpest tack in the box, I think, in some of these instances, I just loved the physicality of the sound and the non-sound. I loved the imagery. For me, that black hole was about as good as you could get from the picture that I had of a black hole in my mind. I liked it. It was kind of like an eye, like things were pulling away from it. I thought that was incredible. Because I think there was a movie called Black Hole that came out in the early 80s.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah,
And Maximilian was that
Max
robot
Mil-
that I remember that was one of the first gory movies I saw when I was a kid. Rated R movies too. I think there was a boob in one of those.
Side boob?
No, I think there was a straight up boob, but I still think it was a pretty big deal. But that black hole was kind of neat too at the time. I think it was just, but it was literally just this enormous black hole, and they put a little ship in front of it, so you knew it was big and small. But that interstellar black hole to me was just mind blowing. And I was telling Matt that the parts in the movie, because my two youngest came with me, and I was stretching it with this movie because to hold their attention for an hour and a half is tough, let alone 2.5 hours in a chair. And don't move, be quiet.
Dad's trying to enjoy this, goddammit.
And I would say things like, "Oh no!" I was like, "Oh my god!" And like, what? I was like, "They wrecked in the water. They're stuck for a little while." What do you mean? They're stuck there for 45 minutes. So guess what? 10 years just went by on Earth. 10 whole years. His daughter,
not on Earth, on the shuttle,
right? But on Earth,
but also
time.
on Earth. Yeah.
So it's like, his daughter who was a little girl. She's an adult now, and they both look at me like, "What?" I'm like, oh my God, this movie is just freaking me out. Yeah. And then I read a book called The Endless War. I forget the author. I'll mention it in a second. And it was along the same lines that this guy Mandela was in this war. We bumped into some alien race. We right away started killing each other. The entire economy of the entire planet Earth became just this battle against these people that we didn't even know if they had a problem with us because we're not talking. Obviously, it's a expansion off of wars in our world. But this guy Mandela is one of the first people that flies out and does like 2 quantum leaps of some sort. I think they call it interstars is what they were calling them. And there's like a wormholes that they had to go through to get back out there. The first time he came back, he was 50 years older than his mom, but still a young man because he had made these jumps. But then he enlisted one time and he got pulled back into the war. And by the end, he's like 2,100 years old. And what's cool is the chapters are Mandela. It was like 1987 to 1995 was one of the first ones. And then it was Mandela 2138 to 22 something. And then it was chapter Mandela 3,100. And I was I had to get my brain wrapped around it. And I was actually kind of glad I saw that movie because then I was like, oh, so this is what they're out talking about it. Yeah. You when you travel through time or at the space continuum. I want to say that. Is that a Star Trek thing? Is you traveling at light speed moves you away from the Earth. And I was like, that again, the mathematics involved in that is amazing. And when you can dumb it down and put it in a movie like that, for me, holy cow, do I get excited. I do know that I'm missing something. There's part of me going, boy, I should have paid attention to that class.
This is a book?
Yeah, it's called The Endless War.
I'm going to Amazon, man. I can't find The Endless War. The Endless War. I'm sorry. My computer is really slow today. The Endless.
Anyways, I saw Interstellar 4 times. I know I saw it twice in the movie theater, once by myself with my 2 boys, then once with Junior, my oldest, the same day. I saw it in the afternoon, then I saw it that night, and then I saw it twice at our awesome cheap theaters here in Cedar Rapids.
Is it the Forever War?
Yeah.
Sorry. Son of a bitch.
No
wonder why I couldn't
I want to see
it.
how hard you were going to search
The
for
Forever
it.
War. The Forever War.
There you go.
And that was by Joe Hellman.
Yeah, it's a really good book. And again, I just wrote a blurb for Aaron Bunce and his book Within, who's a good friend of ours.
You did?
Author.
You got it in? Amazon?
He texted me and said, hey, would you put that Amazon thing in there? I was like, yeah, you might not like it, bitch. I'm just kidding. And so I wrote a little...
great book.
Really good book. And I put it in there when you you feel like you've been around for a little while and you have interest in like sci-fi in particular, which is, fantasy in his book. I feel like I kind of know of what I like and what's popular and things like that, having read for a majority of my life.
It's kind of good.
Yeah, how it kind of fits in things, and I put in there, if it can grab my attention, it has new things and it's kind of fresh and you're kind of caught off guard, it feels good. I was worried about the Forever War because I was like, I read the blurb and I was like, okay, this is going to be some kind of anti-war playoff of America and Russia. Excuse me, something. And it was really, really good. And it kind of talked about how we treat our, in a way, I don't think it was meant to be this way, about how we kind of treat our soldiers, how we kind of just, once they sign up, you're just a hunk of meat, We'll invest this much money in this one, and we'll invest this much money in this one, and this will be hyper expensive. We'll do all these special things for us, but we kind of treat them for as a piece of machinery, and that's about it. So
now, Rich, are they called mandalas?
Oh yeah, the mandalas, yes.
And I was interested to see. I must have spelled it wrong because I'm getting a guitar here.
Mandolin.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But the mandalas are the circles, and then you do another circle, right?
Yeah. They'll, like in Tibet, they'll make these mandalas that are out of different colored grains of sand, very intricate. And they will sit there and spend days on this mandala. And the moment it's finished, they'll destroy it.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, they're beautiful too. It's just amazing to see.
Well, you know what it is? It's humbling. It's showing that we're here for a very short time. You better enjoy it while you can. I mean, there's so many messages in that. That's awesome. Nothing lasts.
Yeah.
Maybe I was thinking of the wrong thing, but I was watching another YouTube video. Surprise!
That's what you do, buddy.
That's what I do. That's what I do. When I'm at work, Rich, the only real rule is don't look at porn and don't sleep. Stay awake and be ready to go.
So YouTube videos it is.
Yeah. So when I was thinking when I wanted to, what is sacred geometry? I want to kind of get a better grasp on this. So I started typing in sacred geometry into YouTube, and there's a really neat video called Sacred Geometry, the Flower of Life.
Oh,
have you seen this at all?
Yeah. I see. I've seen a few of the spirit science videos. They're pretty awesome.
They are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And basically, I'm gonna probably ruin this. So go to YouTube, type in Sacred Geometry, the Flower of Life, and then you can watch it for yourself. It's about that's only 11 minutes long. I thought it was longer, but it kind of talks about what sacred geometry is and its impact on today's culture, and how could it possibly have an impact on today's culture. And it talks about you can make any shape with a triangle. If you have a triangle and a square,
right?
Correct.
Yes.
You can make any shape. So you start drawing circles, and that circle, that circumference, no matter what the circumference is, no matter how big the circle is, as long as you keep that same size, and then you connect another circle of that same size to that circle's ring, and then you do another one and you surround it, and then you start overlapping them as you will, and how they're intersecting points, you can create all the different symbols that we've grown up with.
Yes.
The tree of life, the cross, the Star of David.
Yes.
All these things are shown.
Yeah.
All these really impactful symbols. Did I say impactful? Impactful
Yeah.
symbols that we've grown up with, that countries go to war with each other over their symbology, over their religion, based on these symbols. And you're like, wow, look at this.
The root to all of them is this mathematics.
Yes.
The root to all of them. Yeah. It all comes back to these.
But where's Jesus Christ fit into that? I'm not being saying, you know what I mean? I mean, is that
it talks about the Holy
in?
Trinity. It talks about the Holy Trinity.
Yeah.
In this one video it does. And I thought, wow, that's interesting.
Well,
what is that?
Well, and that's pretty cool, because there's a Trinity in the math that I'm working with, and the vortex math. if you Google Marco Rodin, he created this vortex math, and it's all about the mathematics of a torus. If you basically look at all of the systems that we have, anything from an atomic structure all the way out to a galactic system, they're all based on the model of a torus, basically a donut, with a hole in it.
See that again? What's it called, though?
A torus?
A torus.
Yes.
Like the bull kind of torus?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And so he talks about a triple binary system of energy that revolves around these tori. And the cool thing is, it's all on our number system. We're taught that our numbers are base 10, but really it's base 9. If you think about, once you get to 10, 10 is really 1.
Right.
It's just the next octave up of 1, basically.
Is that because we had to make it easy for us? Is that what it was?
I don't know. It's a good question.
It blows my mind.
Yeah.
9. Oh, shit.
Well,
great. I already learned all that. I just now got the other stuff down.
Yeah. Well,
now I got to try this other stuff.
Is this his name? R-M-I-M. Yeah. No.
Marco Rodin.
Rodin.
R-O-D-I-N. Yeah. And he created what's called a Rodin coil, and they're using it to power some of the most high-powered antennas in the country. It's crazy cool. And, just as a little aside, everybody who has a cell phone, the antenna inside of it's based on mathematics, and it's actually specifically based on fractals. They used to have just a standard antenna, and they were kind of crappy, and you get, the reception wasn't all that great. Remember the old ones?
Yes, sir.
And then what they did was a mathematician discovered that if you create an antenna in the shape of a square, and then you put a smaller square inside of it and a smaller square inside of it, it's a fractal antenna, that you get rid of all of the bad reception, because reception and interference, actually the waves are fractal as well. And so no matter how hard you try to scrub out that interference, they could just never get it with a standard antenna until they made the antenna fractal.
That fucking blows my mind.
Look at some of the images on the back. I believe that's Marco.
Yeah.
Marco Rodin.
And there's the donut.
Yep. Yeah. So you can see that.
Is he a wealthy guy? I mean,
no,
good God Almighty!
No, not at all. He's reclusive.
Oh.
Yeah,
sounds like he should be. Am I off him for his freaking brilliant mind?
He's absolutely brilliant. But
it's you use that type of math and that the drawings that are on this, right?
Yeah.
These pictures.
Yeah.
And then you come up with something concrete.
Yeah.
Like this, like what they have here, this magnet here.
Yeah. Well, and you see that the doubling pattern that he's got there, the one right down below it, that W-shaped thing that he's got going on there. Basically, it's a doubling pattern. So if you start at 1 and you double it, it comes to 2. If you double 2, it goes to 4. If you double 4, it goes to 8. Now, when you double 8, you get 16. But with the math we're using, there's no 16 on there, but 1 and 6 equals 7. So you drop down to the 7. So you go from 8 to 7. Now, if you double a 7, it's either a 14, or if you're staying with your 16 that you had, you're doubling that and you get 32. Either way, 1 and 4 is 5, or 3 and 2 is 5. So you jump from the 8 to the 7 to the 5. Now, if you double the 32, you get 64, which is 6 plus 4 is 10, is 1 plus 0 is 1. You're back to the 1. Now, you can double infinitely and stay on that pattern, and you create what you have that figure 8 loop that they got playing there. It's what's called an infinity pattern. You ever see the infinity 8? That's what this is. Now, Nikola Tesla once said,
I love him.
If you understand the 3, 6, and 9, you have a key to the universe. Now, notice that when you do this doubling pattern, you never touch the 3, the 6, or the 9.
Right.
And that is what I've discovered, just one piece of it. Remember, we're talking about the Trinity and all of this. That's one part of it. You call it the Father, the Son, or the Holy Ghost, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
There's another part of it. And the cool thing about this is, in our bodies and in all biology, when a cell divides, it splits and it doubles and it doubles and doubles. It does exactly that. But the cell doesn't know it doesn't have the blueprint unless you add in the Fibonacci spiral. So, our bones know how to construct and go into the proper ratios with the spiral in that. And so what I did was I actually used part of his work, and I took the Fibonacci sequence and planted it out onto that. And then I found a repeating pattern that goes out 24 numbers. The first 12, it goes out, and then it reverses back in the 12. And the cool thing is they both cross in one specific, see where you get that little green dot there? The Fibonacci spiral does that. It's a much different pattern than that, but they both cross at that same point. Now, the cool thing is if you lay out, you take Stonehenge, for example.
Yes.
And you got all those rings of stone. If you lay out that pattern and the Fibonacci pattern together, they both cross right where the altar stone is. And that's the kind of stuff that blows me away.
See? Yeah. So when I go on and on and on, and I just close my eyes, and Barry White starts playing in my head.
Hey, baby.
And I just start touching myself when I'm thinking about these ancient structures. And
you have always really, he's always been
I've
into
always
this
been
stuff.
into that stuff.
And what was the TV show that was on when I was a little boy? And it had
years and years ago.
Leonard. I want to say Leonard Nimoy was the voice for
he's
it.
dead now.
I know.
Yeah.
It's so
It
sad.
was like a Nova show.
There you go. It was Nova.
Yeah.
And I remember them they were down on some coast. I don't know if it was Easter Island because I know of the statues there. This was like they knew that a group of people had built this structure, and like the doors were like 2-ton pieces of stone, but they were perfectly balanced on the top and the bottom, and you could still just push them and walk through, and the stone would just spin. It was like a spinning
Effortless.
doorway
Yeah.
because they had balance. But we're talking like it looked like a rock pile.
They did
because it was so pitted and it was so old.
a little dude.
A little dude.
He was a little dude. He was a notoriously small fella.
Coral Castle.
Yeah. And that's down in Florida.
Yeah.
And
Maybe that's what I'm.
Yeah, he did the same thing.
He did the same thing, and
Yeah.
people to this day hypothesize about how he created that thing. Things like that should be in the news every fucking day. Things like that should be taught in school every day. I mean, that should be the focus. Those are solid mysteries. It's not like saying, "Hey, let's go hunt for Bigfoot." No, we haven't fucking seen a Bigfoot. But what do we have sitting in front of us every day? The pyramids. Let's fucking figure that shit out. Either we deconstruct it. Let's try to deconstruct the pyramids, or let's try to build one in the same. I mean, there was a university that tried to build a small pyramid, and they did a very, very, very small pyramid. It might have been like 10 feet tall, but they were trying to say, okay, if we had these tools, and how could we work through it? And they were able to kind of start moving some stuff around, nothing to the same extent as the tonnage.
Yeah.
But
did you say that rolling them on the logs and putting a log in front of it, that was not possible? Or I thought that I had heard something, or somebody said that they might have moved it like on a layer of mud, because mud would kind of build a little air pocket and they could slide it. I thought that I had heard a couple different things. Are they saying that some of the tools that we thought they used didn't really happen? Or, I mean, what am I thinking of?
you know what? This is one of the great and bad things about the internet is you don't know what's bullshit. There's a ton of really neat ideas out there, and until somebody takes one of those ideas and goes, all right, we're actually going to do it. I got a piece of marble over here. It's 4 tons. All I want to do is move this one block. I'm not going to try to make a pyramid. All I want to do is try to move this one block in the Sahara Desert from this point 80 miles. All right, dude, do it. Do it without a crane. Do it without a bulldozer or any of that stuff. Do it with manpower. Do it however you think they built the pyramids. Just try to move it. Now, some ideas are they brought in water and they just got the sand just wet enough and it made it
That's what I meant by the mud
slick.
thing.
Right, yeah. That was one idea. Another idea was that they created dams, right? They created a dam all the way around the block, I think.
How would you move it?
And then they attached the block to a boat. They flooded the area,
Bladders or something?
and then they forced air into the boat, and then the boat rose up, and then they were able to push the blocks
from one side of the
it was
dam
more
to the other.
it was like a huge Panama Canal scenario, and this guy plays it out in a computer generated thing on YouTube, and it was kind of a neat idea. It's like, oh, you know what, that's neat, but until you do it, until you just move one block.
And you would think that wouldn't be too hard if you're going to make an experiment. You wouldn't have to, of course, build a dam. You can get a brick and build something to ratio to kind of show that you could get water or air underneath it, or build something that long and that wide that contained water in a desert that would make it float. I mean, you could do those experiments without having to do something crazy big.
Yeah, but nobody does. That's the thing that I
don't know. Does nobody do that? He's doing it.
Well, I mean, no, you're doing math. Yeah. He's doing math on a computer and on paper and checking out the coolness of that and seeing the patterns.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But nobody that I know of, and maybe there are people out there on the internet, and leave a comment on YouTube and tell me, educate my ass. Point me in the right direction. But as far as I know, nobody is saying, okay, thank you, whoever, for delivering this 5-ton block. Now all I have to do with my team of people, this is how I think they moved it. I just need to move from there to there. Nobody's doing that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But couldn't you say, okay, so that block is this big by this, it weighs this much. A tenth of that scale would be a block that weighs this much. Okay, let's sit here on the table.
No,
let's
don't scale it down. No, I'm saying
saying, couldn't we? I mean, that would be how you could pull off an experiment. If that weighs a certain amount, I can get a little block that weighs very similar ratio-wise to its weight and to all the other measurements of it, and then I should be able to roll it and put twigs in front of it to test out or see if I can make it raise up out of water by putting in water underneath it. I can do ratios. If it's 1/10 the size of that block, maybe it's 500 pounds, and you got to do something else.
But then other things kind of fall into that you never took into consideration.Maybe you take the block and you ratio it down to something manageable. It's like, oh, that's a little 6-pound block. I can do this, and let's put some logs there. And
every part of the experiment.
But then you take a 6-ton block and you try to pull it across the logs, and all of a sudden the logs sink into the sand. You're like, oh shit, that doesn't work quite the same because I didn't take into.
Well, you're right. You have to take into consideration the tabletop and make sure everything is the same. So
I would be impressed if they took the medium block. When you look at all the different stones that were used in ancient Egypt. Yeah. Take the smallest one, take the fucking biggest one, the biggest one that is still in the quarry that was all chiseled out but was left there, people guess, because there's a crack in it. So they left it.
Oh.
Right? But it's laying down. It's this huge rectangular block. It weighs so many tons. It weighs hundreds of tons. That's not the amazing thing. The amazing thing is that there's other stones roughly that size that were moved, and that one is still in the quarry, and somehow they had to chisel under that son of a bitch to release it. Everything else, it's all chiseled out. Everything, all the other sides are done except for underneath. How do you chisel underneath stone that as you're chiseling it is going to be...
I think it was the slave that didn't matter very much who got to crawl underneath there.
That's the type of thing that just blows my... But take the median. Take the...
Sure.
Right in the middle. If you move that stone along with your hypothesis, I'll be super impressed. But I don't see that. I don't see that happening.
Anyway. It'll be interesting. Yeah. If the tabletop's the same as like a slick piece of cement, that won't crack and buckle, and you make sure that if it was a 1-foot diameter log that they use to roll these things, and you make sure the ratio of the little things you're going to use are the same. Because I don't know. That'd be interesting. But there's ways to do it. There's people who are a gazillion times smarter than me that could probably pull those things off.
All right. So we've been basically jerking off the Egyptians for building a pyramid, right? But here's something we haven't talked about at all, which I think is even more astounding, which is the foundation that they built to put the pyramids on.
Right.
That foundation has to support not only one of the blocks that I'm thinking, oh my God, look at that block. That block is amazing.
That's funny.
But you have a foundation that's supporting all of those blocks. All of those goddamn blocks. That blows my mind. It blows my mind.
What's the foundation look like? Do they say that what it looks like, the foundation? Is it just like we build a foundation for our house now. We just line a square with things, and they start. I mean, the pyramids are rather solid, aren't they?
No, the pyramids are not solid.
There's not parts.
Yes,
there's
very solid.
Okay, no, I meant solid as like it's not a solid piece of stone. There's walkways and crawl spaces and tombs and things like that inside of it.
Yeah,
right?
there's chambers and passageways.
So there's got to be some kind of structure. There's got to be some kind of like a structure of what the plans were initially to build it, because it's not like we put in foundations and we do walls and then we do a floor and then we start doing things. It's more of like they have to start from the foundation and start working their way up. I mean,
and I think it was the same guy, the same presentation that I watched about the lock system like you would see in the Panama Canal, right? Where you close the gate and then you fill it up with water and then you move it to the next gate. His idea, I believe, was that they flooded this area and they had slaves come in and just stomp on the sand with water. And it just kept compacting it. I don't know. And I don't think any of us know until we were to deconstruct the pyramids. You're like, hey, let's take the pyramids look like shit right now anyway. Come on.
Well, what's funny is if you see some of those aerial photographs of the pyramids, you can see that Cairo is like right up to the edge of them, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So they're not like in the middle of nowhere.
Have you ever been there? Have you ever gone?
Nope, never been there.
You should go. I was there. I went there. I was a little like, that's it. You know, when you're a kid and you're growing up and you think of the pyramids or you see them in the movies, you think, okay, I'm going to go through the pyramids. I'm going to get in this caravan and I'm going to go out in the desert. No, that city is right up on it. I mean, there's like a gate that separates in like a ticket place that separates the city from the Sphinx.
Wow.
And it is so commercialized. There's like a laser light show all over the Sphinx. If you were to I always laughed at this one back in the day when I was there with my first wife. It was a great trip. Thanks, honey. If you were to take the people that made that and time travel them to today, and they were like, you fuckers are putting laser light shows on my Sphinx. Do you understand? Do you have any idea what it took to make that thing? Do you have any idea how old that thing is? Do you have any idea what's under the paws? There's a room, there's something underneath the Sphinx, isn't there? That's what they say.
Well, didn't they find it and they're not saying what it is?
Well,
somebody in the Egyptian government is keeping it secret because otherwise, I don't know if they think it's something that we can't handle or what. Well, they say that about our government too. It's like, they take these things and they hide them because they just don't think we can handle it.
So, Rich, when you think of this stuff, like what's kind of the thing that always kind of feeds that fire for you, that passion for you? Is it just being able to apply those patterns to old sites, or do you get sucked into the biology and how the math correlates to all different things?
Yeah, I really like the perfection that I found in the math. And the cool thing about it is I've created a formula using the Platonic solids again, where I can actually resolve unresolvable numbers. And it's kind of like, well, as an example, square root of 2 and square root of 3, they're unresolvable numbers. It's 1 and, infinite out of decimal points. And the cool thing about it is by taking the areas and the volumes of these Platonic solids and dividing them against each other, you get another unresolvable number. But if you multiply that by the square root of 2 or the square root of 3, you get absolutely perfect whole numbers. And there's no leftovers. And to me, that's like, okay, this is very cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't understand very much of it, but it's awesome.
Yeah.
I understand square root of 2 and 3 and things like that. And I understand whole numbers. Thank God for that part. But
I have a visual I can show you. Okay. So, we talked about, taking a compass and making a circle. So, all this geometry has started out with a circle.
Right.
And so they take another circle and basically take the point of that compass and run it through the center of the first circle, and you create what's called a vesica Pisces.
Right.
And with that, you can start to create all kinds of geometry. And you get some very specific proportions on these lines. Now that line is, in proportion, the square root of 3, which is, the unresolvable number that I was talking about. And this line across, and you can you got your equilateral triangle.
Oh.
And then with that line, that's actually the square root of 2. And then you can create a square that way too. And that's all off reservation, but there's the platonic solids. So when you start with a cube, you can actually create a tetrahedron out of, because I was always wondering, how do I do this and construct this three-dimensionally? Because it's pretty darn tough unless you've got because the angles become infinite, unless you, so if you start with a cube, you can actually go to the center of each face and draw a line. And this will allow you to create a perfect octahedron. It's that 8-sided piece. Looks like basically looks like two pyramids stacked, bases.
Sure.
And then, so you create that shape. Now you can do the same thing start again with the cube, and this time draw the lines diagonally across the faces and just connect those lines, and you create a perfect tetrahedron. And then with the tetrahedron, there's what's called a star tetrahedron.
Okay.
Two-dimensionally, think of it as a star, David.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so I actually figured out a formula just by using my computer and measuring all these volumes and stuff and comparing them. I found out that the exact same volume, no leftovers. We're talking precisely. You get 2 star tetrahedrons are the same as the cube that it came out of. So this is like a cube that was, let's just call it 1 foot by 1 foot by 1 foot, just for easy. And then you can actually, the tetrahedrons you can fit 3 of those volume-wise inside that cube. And then the same thing, you can actually fit 3 octahedrons in that cube. So I thought that, that's kind of cool. And then, so what I did was I figured out the areas of those because I wanted to compare them and see if there was any correlation there. And so you get these unresolvable numbers here. But then what I did was, I took the area of the star tetrahedron and I multiplied it times 2 because 2 of them can fit in a cube. And I got this number, 10.323923. Well, then I did the same thing for the tetrahedron. It's a different number, but I multiplied it times the number of them that fit inside the cube. And I got the exact same number as the first one. So 2 different equations with the exact same result. Now the octahedron was an entirely different result. I multiply that out and I only get 8.48. And I'm like, what's going on? But what I did next was I divided that out by the number of faces in the cube, and I got 1.73205, which is exactly the square root of 3. And then I took the octahedron result and I divided it by the number of faces on the cube, and I get the 1.412, which is exactly the square root of 2. Now, the cool thing about all of that is if you map out the Giza Plateau and you look at an aerial view, the distance across the plateau from edge of pyramid to the farthest pyramid is a ratio of the square root of 3. And then the width is a ratio of square root of 2. Exactly.
Wow.
So, it's just tripping cool stuff. And then so I thought, now what if I take it the next step up and do a cube that's 2 by 2 by 2, and I get different formulas, but I get the same result. The cool thing is the 1 by 1 by 1 cube, my result equaled 1 all the way across. In the 2 by 2 by 2 cube, the result in the math equals 4. And then I took it a step further and I did all the cubes, 3 by 3, 4 by 4, all the way through. And the square root of 3 result gives me this number 149, 16, 25, 36. So basically, it's a multiple of the cube that I started with. But if you break it down into the math that I'm working with, where you only have the 9 digits, you get a repeating pattern. So you get 1497791. So it's forwards and backwards, and you can take that infinitely, all of these different sides of cubes, all the way out and infinitely backwards, and you can cut them in half infinitely the other direction, and it'll just give you perfect whole numbers. And the cool thing about that is this is a matrix that Marco Rodin uses in his Vortex Math for his doubling circuit.
It's a multiplication table.
Yeah, exactly. And then so, even in computers, everything doubles. We went from 256K of memory to 512. Everything doubles that way. And we were talking earlier about sound and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whenever you have, let's say you have a C, low C, and then the middle C is the next octave up. The frequency of the low C is going to be like 32 hertz. Well, the next octave up is going to be 64 hertz, exactly a double of that. And that's why it's cool to study all this together, the math with the music. But there's a science called cymatics, where if you put the two sound waves together and let them collide, and if you do it on a plate and you have sand and you vibrate it to that frequency, it makes a pattern.
But it doesn't just make. I mean, it makes specific patterns depending on the frequency.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it makes patterns that are they correlate back to the Tibetan pictures, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's the stuff it's crazy. If you're into...
Well, and I got a story about Roswell Chapel, too, to tell you about that. I don't know if you've heard that yet.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
But if you're somebody who's like, you know what? I just wish there was magic in the world. I wish there was something special in the world. This world is just bland. It's flavorless. It's shaken up soda. It's got no kick to it anymore. This world is just blah. There's nothing cool. There's nothing special.
There's your flavor.
This is the stuff that's really, if you look into it, it's mind blowing, and I can find myself. Have you ever seen the movie 23? Okay. Who did I say was the actor that was in it?
Dumb and Dumber.
No, that's a movie that the actor's in.
Yes.
I just had to screw with you, or what?
Pet Detective. Yeah, I'm not sure why I'm like Jim Carrey.
Jim Carrey. Hey, but you know what? You sounded dumb. I was just quiet. I didn't know it either. I forgot it.
Oh yeah.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah, sure.
But Jim Carrey was in a movie called 23, and everything, he lost his mind because everywhere he looked, he was breaking things down to 23 constantly, and
is that a real thing? Is 23 a number that's in particular?
I think it is in a way. I think it's one of those, what do you call it? Urban legends that you're like afraid to do. It's kind of like saying Bloody Mary in the mirror, you're like, I don't know. Candyman. But yeah, I was watching the movie, and then at the end of the movie, I was like, you know what? I don't know if I necessarily want to start down that road, because once you find yourself in that funnel, all of a sudden you're going faster and faster and faster. And before you know it, you're like in it. You can't pull yourself out. And I feel like if you were to go down this road, which you have, sir, you are gone. You are, there's no saving you.
You're not gone. You've been down that road.
You're in the funnel, but you've found like the magic. You found that like underlying truth to, I sound grandiose when I say this. I know this, to life. To ancient secrets. Now, you don't know what it means yet.
Right.
But you are finding correlations with things. You're like, nobody knew that before.
Yeah.
Holy shit, this is cool. Okay, so if I just keep somehow applying this ancient knowledge, maybe I can reteach myself. Maybe I can teach myself what was taught back then. How did they use these things?
Right. Yeah.
Back then.
Well, I think the idea is not that you're using this ancient knowledge. It's a truth that runs through everything.
Yeah.
Which again
it's not
might
like
be
an
why.
ancient idea. It's just the simple fact of the way things are. Period.
And again, it might be why there's pyramids in places. Here's a truth: 1 + 1 is 2. 2 + 1 is 3. Here's a truth that they knew way back then. Okay, completely unrelated people. You know what? 1 banana + 1 banana is 2 bananas. I'm not trying to dumb them down. I'm trying to say that here's a truth. It's a universal truth, and they stumbled upon that universal truth like somebody else stumbled upon the universal truth. And the reason why what they came out with their pyramid was so much like these people's with their pyramid is because when they started adding up the truth and playing it all out, it came up to the same thing. A big ass fucking pyramid that they were able to correlate with the heavens.
Right.
And that's what's cool is like it actually works with the solar system. It works with.
So why do you think this isn't more common knowledge and is part of our?
Think people turn it into taboo. I think people are like, "Oh, you gonna read your horoscope? Are you gonna look at the stars?"
No. I don't think this has anything to do with horoscopes. In my mind, this has to do with math. And if this is a common truth in mathematics, then is it something that we are applying? I mean, obviously, your friend who came up with the guy that you admire came up with that donut shaped kind of idea, and they're using it in high powered antennas. It sounds like so. I mean, obviously, it's being applied in certain areas, but only if it probably benefits a certain small group of people or something. I don't know the donut thing.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean,
I love the idea of a donut shape, mathematic shape. I love that.
I don't know what your deal is with the key lime.
No, I like them. I like them a lot.
I'm gonna dominate these.
I like them. I liked it a lot.
Do I need to save you any?
Nope, don't save me any. It's lime.
Rich, I know you're sleeping with the chef. Do I need to save you any?
Oh, I'm good.
All right.
The cool thing is I always get to be the tester.
Right.
That is the cool thing. That is the cool thing.
I found some fudge in the back of my fridge. We had eaten half of it, and somehow it got pushed back, and I saw it, and I was like, it's probably not. I don't know if it's like regular fudge where I can eat it 6 months later. I'm not sure if I'm going to make that leap, but I felt actually bad throwing it away because I was like, oh,
I'd do it.
So good.
I'd do it.
You would eat it.
Oh, yeah.
That
boy. It's fermented. It's like doing a shot of alcohol or something.
Oh, if it's been in the fridge or the freezer, it's all right.
Is it really?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. Don't tell.
All right, now
we'll edit that part.
Thanks. Yeah.
Now you walked away. You were going. Continue on with your presentation.
All right.
Oh, sorry.
Well, we were, talking about cymatics, and that. I'll go back to this picture here. Whenever you have two notes that are an octave apart, let's just take low C and the middle C. Frequency-wise, low C. I could be wrong on this, but I think it's 32 hertz. Now, if you go up to the next octave of C, it's 64 hertz, so it doubles. But in cymatics, whenever you take those two frequencies and collide them together, they create different shapes. Here is actually the shape of two frequencies that are exactly an octave apart, and they create this infinity pattern. So here in sound or music, if you will, you've got an example of that figure eight that where I was showing you before on that doubling pattern, and so not only in math does it happen, and here it is with sound. And cool thing is there's in cymatics, you're familiar with Roswell Chapel, right? In Scotland?
Yes.
Okay.
Now that has like a Templar.
Yes, it has a Templar connection. Yes. The movie Da Vinci Code probably made it the most famous.
Sure.
Because they one of the places they went to is Roswell Chapel.
Right.
Well, the ceiling of that chapel has all these little carved boxes on it. And they're little stone boxes. And the cool thing is they're proportion of 4 units wide, 3 units tall, and then 5 units on the diagonal, which is very significant for a sounding chamber. It actually creates perfect sound. But these little stone boxes on the face of each one is a different pattern of cymatics. It's a different sound frequency pattern. In cymatics, they can actually take a glass plate and put sand on it and then vibrate it to different frequencies. And then so whenever you change a frequency, a different pattern appears.
Well, you can see all the YouTube videos of that now where they do it with water.
Oh, yeah.
Like white sand or salt on stuff. They did it with flames one time. The flame one was crazy.
Yeah, that's cool stuff.
Wow. Okay.
So now on the ceiling of Roswell Chapel, they've got all these patterns carved in stone.
How do they know?
And the cool thing is,
how do you know?
This father-son team, they actually figured out there's another part in the chapel where there's this stone person carved, and he's pointing at a musical scale with both of his hands, and wherever his fingers touch on the line, indicates a note, and it corresponds to the little stone boxes that are carved on the ceiling. Well, they took all those stone boxes and they created music out of what was written based on that key that they found with that stone guy carved on the thing. It's just awesome.
Bum, bum,
Yeah.
bum, bum. I don't mean to belittle what you're saying. That is unbelievably cool.
Yeah. So that's finding stuff like that is what.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
That maybe that goes back to what you were saying earlier. Why don't we know about things like that? That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It's nothing kooky or conspiracy laden. It's just a really neat fact.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with anything other than music, And
We need to start up that show again.
What?
That show on Nova with Leonard Nimoy's voice, because that's really neat. And I look how popular the History Channel is and the National Geographic Channel. I mean, it'd be cool to have somebody that found little things like that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what stops us from moving forward is religion. I think as soon as people start going, what? No, God did this. Math didn't do this. And I mean, I know it's like a simple, I think it could be as simple as somebody, how people start fighting over the fact that it's creation. No, it's this. Well, why can't it be both? Why can't the whole thing of this happened in 7 days? Why can't this correlate?
Or why can't
Rich just gave me the finger,
or why
not
can't
the
they
bad
both be
finger?
right? Why can't somebody say there's nothing and it be just fine?
Well, I have it for you. I can
Here we
tie
go.
I can tie math and religion together. The
Da Vinci Code.
I do this stepping on eggshells, of course, but there's
Why?
some correlation here.
Oh.
Like the number 40, very significant in the Bible. 40 days, 40 nights. Jesus wandered through the wilderness 40 days.
Right.
The Jews wandered in the desert 40 years.
Right.
To me, 40 is a transformational number because whenever 40 is mentioned, some kind of transformation happened.
Well, even for human beings, we've kind of turning 40 is like this midlife crisis kind of thing. So.
Yeah.
That's true. Think of it. Oh, I'm turning 40 next year. Oh, shit. We've turned it into kind of a weird thing. Maybe it's a bleed over.
You are correct. You are correct.
So the math I'm working with, we start with that circle that I've been working with. We got the start at 9 at the top and then 1 through 8 all the way around. Well, if you divide a circle 360 degrees into 9 sections, that's 40. So
4 times 9 is 36 with the 0.
Yeah.
See how fast I did that in my brain? That's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. And so, I look around and I'm like, okay, what else comes in segments of 40 that are, ancient structures? Well,
Sure.
The Pantheon in Rome, it's got 24 coffers, and it is actually has 24 by 5 rows. That whole ceiling, it's the biggest concrete structure to date still that's self-supporting. And they figured out how to make that concrete back then, and it's a recipe that they've lost. We don't even have it. We can't make concrete as good as they did it back then.
Wow.
Huh? I have
a question for you. How come you're not like living under a bridge somewhere? Do you have a job that allows you to do these things? I mean, have you? I think it's wonderful because I think we need people who think like you.
Yeah.
What do you kind of attribute that to besides your curiosity? What do you do for a job day by day?
Oh, I'm a designer, so I work with, I draw buildings all day long.
Oh,
And,
okay. So not an architect,
I'm not
a
an
designer.
architect, yeah. I'm just a designer.
Well,
so
I think your math prowess are
So do you
pretty good.
try? I mean, do you try, or do you find yourself that you can't stop putting cool little applying your math to your designs?
Well, it's funny because I'll started about 3 years ago. I'll just be sitting there and I'll get this idea that just hits me in the head. It's like, bam, and I have to write it down because it's like, oh, that could work, and then I go in out. In fact, I actually have 2 journals that I just write stuff in, just to stuff to check out. And I'll even write down the question to ask myself and research it later. And it's fun, all the stuff that I come across because of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I tell my son that all the time. Like, I'm sorry about your 5th grade math, buddy. I'm doing the best I can. I think it's. I mean, I am not an analytical person. I am not a math person. I mean, you know how we all kind of fit. I'm not the most organized person. I'm probably better than I used to be by a long shot because I needed my life to be simpler. But otherwise, I'm not the most organized person. I'm kind of like, float by the seat of your pants kind of person. Like tonight, he goes, "Hey, did you check those things out for tonight?" I'm like, "Nope." Not that I didn't want to, but I was like, you know what? I want to just have Richard kind of say, "Hey, dummy, here you go from the raw." So I knew the golden ratio and I knew some of the words that you said earlier, but I wanted to kind of hear what it was. But I wonder, do you think brains kind of like that? And not that I don't think I could possibly get it at some point and studied hard and could do it.
You were the guy pulling the block back in Egypt. There was Rich was telling you where to put the block.
I totally agree.
We need everybody. We need everybody in society. We need the people that are handing us our burgers
and the dumbasses. The strongbacks.
Listen, I wasn't.
I didn't take it that way at all.
I wasn't calling you names.
I didn't take it that way.
I was just placing you in a category. Is it
kind
equally
of the same thing?
Is it equally?
But not
bad?
really, because I feel better about it.
All right, some more cool stuff, Rich.
All right. So yeah, the 40 doesn't stop there. If you actually stick a sphere inside of the Pantheon in cross section, it will. It's a 40 meter in diameter sphere.
Who was the Pantheon designed by? Do we know who built it or who designed it?
That is a good question. I don't know.
Should I Google it?
I'm going to Google that shit now. Well, the Romans built it, right? Oops.
Let's see who can get it.
We're all quiet as we Google this shit.
Damascus. No. God darn it. I just went with the Marcus, commissioned by Marcus Agrippa.
Oh, and I got Parthenon. Not Pantheon.
Yeah.
Pantheon?
The Pantheon, yes.
It was commissioned by Marcus Agrippa during the reign of Augustus, 27 BC.
Damascus?
Did I say what?
Is it Damascus? Apollodorus of Damascus? Wow, Damascus has been around a long time. Do we know who designed it, though? He's the one who commissioned it, right? Who designed it?
Yeah, that is a good question.
It says the Pantheon was built on the exact site of two earlier Pantheon buildings. One commissioned by Marcus Vipsenius. All right, that's ancient history. Go to www.ancient.eu / whatever. Pantheon / and you get a little.
Pantheon is derived from the ancient Greek pantheon, meaning of, relating to, or common to all gods.
Interesting.
It's a circle.
Yeah.
So that kind of fits that.
The cool thing is if you look at the ceiling, it's got the oculus in the center. That opening.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
That's like a torus.
Oh.
There's your donut.
There's your donut. Little butthole in the sky. It's gorgeous.
What is wrong with you? Little butthole to the sky. I wish I knew what was going on in your head sometimes.
I'm not sure you want to know.
Hey, all right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Rich finish his thing, and then I want to show you this YouTube video because I think it's gonna also make you go.
Well, part of my research in ancient sites, there's this place in Ireland called Newgrange, and they call it a pass-through tomb. It's basically this big mound of dirt, and it's got all these stones around the outside of it, and you can go inside. The cool thing is it's got this window that right on the summer solstice in the morning, the light shines through it and reaches all the way to the back of the chamber. No other part of the year that it does that. So, it's pretty cool.
Wow.
But all the way around this place, they've got what they are called curbstones, Kerb, and they're carved with all these different patterns, and the spiral is one of them. And in the drawing I have up here, they also have all these rays coming out of it, where they've got a kind of a hole in the center, and I've identified 19 different rays there. Well, the cool thing is that flower of life pattern that we were looking at earlier, you can't create that unless you've got 19 circles.
Oh yeah.
And 19 is a really cool number. Here's kind of this honeycomb beehive pattern. Well, you can take the numbers 1 through 19, put them on there, and you add up any one of those rows or columns, and you get a number that's factored out by 19. You can either get a 19 or a 38 or a 57. It's, 19 times 1, 2, or 3. And the other cool thing about 19 is some religions, I believe, I believe Muslims believe 19 is the number for God.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's God's number. So,
72 virgins. What if that has
Is that
significance?
divisible by 19? 72?
I don't think so.
I don't think it is.
They're both.
No,
No, I don't think it is.
So, and here again, you get here's the flower of life pattern overlaid onto the circles.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And in ancient places like, how old are the food dogs in China? A few thousand years old. Each one of those is guarding, they're said to be guarding a secret, and the secret's right under the paw. Well, here you've got the flower of life pattern on one and a spiral pattern on the other. Pretty cool
The
stuff.
flower of life is
That's
found.
cool.
I don't know if you know this. I'm going to say it so it makes me sound smart. The flower of life symbol is found throughout the world, all the different cultures, and it's also named the same fucking thing.
Yes.
Wow. And all the mathematics work out the same no matter
Yeah.
which one it is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So different cultures at
That's
different
pretty cool.
times discovering this separately, all calling it the same thing with the exact same symbology.
Is the lily flower of the Buddha, is it part of it? Do you know?
Maybe.
It's like that. It's almost like a half moon shaped kind of flower. So I'm just curious. I mean, I really don't.
The lotus?
The lotus flower.
Yeah.
See, that'd be a cool tattoo to get
Bringing it back to your tattoos.
because I like tattoos. I want something else to put on my body. Well, I want to get a food dog, but you know what? Now I know I want a ball underneath it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
sick.
Yeah, the sickest part
Could
about
add
your food
something
dog
to
is
that.
the,
That'd be
is the
neat.
ball.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
Traditionally always shown in pairs, so you should get a pair of them if you do.
Oh,
pair of food
shit.
dogs.
That's a lot of.
It's like bookends.
It's a lot of arm space. I don't know if I
Yeah.
put it on my thighs.
You're
or
gonna have to
something.
CrossFit some more.
Stretch it out.
Get a food dog on each side of your gut.
If I wasn't fat, I
no,
would
that would
totally
be
get a
perfect
food
because
dog.
each food dog can hold your gut. It looks like it's bookending.
and I'll do
your
the sacred
keg.
flower on my tummy, and they
Yeah.
could both be holding that.
big flower of life right over your belly button.
It looks so attractive. It looks so great. If I was shredded, it'd be sick to have two food dogs on your sides, though. That'd be
It would
awesome.
be pretty sick. All right, Rich, continue, sir.
All right. What else I got
Being
here?
very, very.
Again, Shiva is said to be this god that can either be benevolent or destructive.
Okay.
And, he does this dance, and, he's always shown with the
Star of David.
yeah. You can overlay that Star of David on there, and so that ties in quite a bit with a lot of cultures. Okay, now here's the other cool thing. Chartres Cathedral, it's in France. It's one of the only cathedrals that I know of that doesn't really have anybody named as the architect. A lot of the other cathedrals, somebody designed it somewhere. This one was kind of designed by the people. And the cool thing about this is you've got an inner row of columns here that proportionally, if you set the Earth there, the moon can set out tangent to the outside. Well, you've got these three alcoves basically where they're the exact size of the moon compared, proportionally to what those inner circles are. And then you've got another outer ring of columns. And the cool thing is whenever you've got an outer ring and an inner ring that are half the size of each other, you can create and inscribe that Star of David pattern on it. And actually,
Is there a name for that besides Star of David? Or is it?
yeah, to me, it's a two-dimensional representation of a star tetrahedron.
Right.
Yeah.
Or just two triangles.
It's a six-pointed star, if you
Sure.
want to give it the generic term.
That's the devil's work. Let's not call it that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
And that's
this
the
tree of life
That's
right there.
the tree of life. And actually, this goes to the number 11. The other cool thing about 11 is, again, if you go back to the Earth and the Moon, the Earth is 11, and proportionally, the Moon is 3. So you've got a 3 to 11 ratio on that.
All right. And how is that significant? 3:11 ratio.
Well, going back to the Chartres Cathedral again, here we've got 11 on
11 posts, or
11 for the diameter of the between those columns there,
Mhm.
and then you've got 3 on the diameter between the columns over here and those alcoves.
now we're getting into it.
Yeah, this is where I was explaining before, where here it is in plan view. Here's all the relationships, and this is all measured in Egyptian cubits, which is what they would have used at the time. So you've got 1,732 cubits, which is 1.732 is the square root of 3. So it's a proportional dimension of that square root of 3. And then on the width there, you've got that square root of 2.
Why would the width not go from there to there?
Well,
It's going from tip of pyramid to tip of pyramid.
Yeah, from the base of the pyramid to the base of the pyramid. I've got that.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've only highlighted that yellow rectangle in there because on that diagonal, it actually worked out to the square root of pi, which was kind of cool.
Wow.
Now, the pyramid in the top, which is the furthest north, that's the Great Pyramid. The cool thing about that is it's not really 4-sided. It's actually 8-sided.
Yes, because it dips
It
in
concaves.
into this.
Yeah.
Do you know what we're talking about, Todd?
No, do you have a picture of it?
Yeah, actually, I think I'm going to play a little animation here for you.
Oh, that's even better.
All right.
And you only, but here's
You
the
might
thing.
want to throw your power to him.
My what?
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Just unplug
All right.
you and just hand it over.
All right. So, by modeling this with the software that I use, I was able to play with light and shadow and kind of throw the sun on there for different times of year. And so here I grabbed the Google Earth image. Oh, actually, first we'll go through that spiral thing I was talking to you about. Now, if you draw the curve through the apex of each pyramid and you continue that out, you can see where I've got that Fibonacci spiral going on. Well, the one quantum cross line does go right through the center of the middle pyramid, right on the peak. And just for reference, that little rectangle off to the right there is the Sphinx, just so you can kind of see.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What is in the center? Is there any structural significant thing that's in the center of the beginning of the spiral?
That is a good question. When I did a little more research onto where the beginning of that spiral is, there's an old cemetery there.
I bring it up because there is a hypothesis that those 3 pyramids are not put there. You know how for the longest time people are like, "Oh, that's for the 3 stars of Orion's belt."
Yeah.
Not so much. Another guy is saying not so much. It's because of a completely different astrological sign, and is it the swan? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't. I'll have to check that out.
But if you take this other astrological symbol, and it's like for the Milky Way, it's like Jesus. It's a picture of a swan.
Okay.
Basically. And when you overlay that, just an enthusiast kind of pulled that out of his ass looking at it. And he thought, okay, if I lay this over that, it lines up perfectly, because these don't line up perfectly with the belt of Orion. But if I lay this over it, it does line up perfectly. And if that lines up perfectly, then what would be significant here and what would be significant here on that astrological symbol?
Yeah.
And what he found was, I believe, that cemetery, and they had a special on it to where they went into the cemetery. They looked around and they're like, man, we couldn't find anything. So they left. I can't remember if they left and then came back, or it was right as they were getting ready to leave the first time, but they found an entrance to a cavern.
Interesting.
And then when they explored that more, they found a hole like this, a tunnel. And what they were planning on doing was coming back a third time and sending a robot in with a camera. And that's when the Egyptian government came in. And now there's a big locked gate on the
Interesting.
entrance to the cemetery. So I asked that because that's really fucking cool that you did
That's
that
right on the same spot.
And I'm just wondering if it correlates. Because if it correlates, then my doors are really blown at this point. Which I don't know why it wouldn't.
Yeah.
It would make sense if it did.
I'm excited because off to the right there, we can get some coffee.
What's wrong with you? Dude, does any of this just freak you out?
It doesn't freak me out. It makes me, it seems really neat.
Because
it doesn't freak
the
me
other
out at all.
hypothesis is that is through that opening somehow. I mean, if you were to somehow get into that other chamber, he's guessing that might be the lost library.
Very cool.
If it's not Alexandria, but I think it's a different library. But it's just like your mind's blown. You're like, oh my God, that could have been the biggest find since the Dead Sea Scrolls. You know, something where you're like, oh my God, they're actually talking about Jesus. This is like the oldest writings.
Is it under armed guard? Because you would think somebody would get in there.
I'm pretty sure. I don't want to.
We'll be your bodyguard. Let's do this.
All right, let's go.
I will try to find the YouTube video that is talking about the stuff that I'm talking about so that I don't sound like a crazy person. And then you can click on that and watch it for yourself. But it's really...
That's awesome. I'll
really,
check it out.
Really
Yeah, I got to see that. So, anyway, I took that line right there that I highlighted, and I said, well, what happens if I just move it over here and, right through the apex of the pyramid and actually touches the backside of the Sphinx? But then once I got that line in place, I said to myself, well, gosh, what if I throw it onto the other side of the middle line, equal distance, and exactly equal distance, it goes through the center of that other pyramid. So, that was kind of like, this isn't by mistake.
This isn't just three random buildings.
Yeah. And then just being the visual person I am and working with the geometry the way I do, I actually recognize the angles of those lines right away, as being on that kind of a grid. And then, if you highlight those shapes,
there's the Holy Trinity.
Yeah, look
right
at
there,
how
the blue.
Everything connects.
Wow. It's cool that you came up with that. And I think that there's I have a hard time thinking there's not a really significant, because you got to start someplace. You got to stand someplace and go, okay, I want it to all come out from here.
Right.
Instead of some guy standing somewhere and going, I don't want those three buildings to be on the curve.
And do you think that
there's got to be something?
Was this maybe a standard measurement tool? We think it's significant because we're associating with so many things. Yeah. Maybe this was a tool that they just used on a regular basis because it was part of the world they lived in.
Yeah. It's everybody who was taught math at the time they were taught this kind of math, and so
that's still neat how it matches the flower of life and stuff like that.
I wonder if mathematics way back then was religion. Religion back then was math. I wonder. Because of how it correlates, it goes back and forth. And how the story that we were talking about earlier, if you were to walk out and talk about the shape of the
the dodecahedron.
Right.
Yeah,
you could be killed for it.
Yeah.
It's like
it's almost like it has to be sacrilegious to talk about that outside the church kind of thing.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And, yeah. Oh, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
See, so I'm amped. You're like, yeah, that's really cool.
I am amped that you're amped.
You're amped. All right. Mm-hmm. All right. Now, Todd, what you're going to see, this was not known right away. Everybody thought that, it's pretty astounding that the 4-sided pyramid is as cool as it is.
Yeah.
But then once somebody saw the pyramid, they took a picture of it during the summer solstice or the winter solstice. I forget.
It's probably might have been from one of the equinoxes. Actually,
I'm sorry, the equinox.
Yeah,
You're right, the equinox. Yeah. When they took a picture of the pyramid during the equinox, that's when they noticed that it was actually an 8-sided pyramid. Correct?
A diamond shaped.
Yeah. Well, so from the air you can see it. You've got the sides actually concave in, and each what you call a side is actually 2 sides. And then, so I'm just going to highlight them here real quick for you. So it's like that. And then, so here it is in, I use SketchUp to model this. Now, whenever I see that shape, it's always a very specific shape to me. And to me, a lot of things if you have something 2-dimensional, it's usually a shadow of a 3-dimensional item. And so 3-dimensionally, watch that. It's star tetrahedron.
Whoa.
So
That's pretty. I like a little sphinx. That was great.
Yeah. So I kind of did the same thing with the Stonehenge here. Here you've got the inner set of rings, a middle set, and then the outer set. And so the inner set, and then there's the middle rings. Highlighted them in purple, and the outer ring has the Saracen stones on the top. And so I drew this whole thing out as it was built, not, in the ruined condition and that sort of thing. And here, the yellow dot is where the altar stone is, and those two patterns that we're talking about, the doubling pattern and the Fibonacci pattern.
Oh, the same spot was highlighted, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's where they cross over, and that's right on that altar stone.
Wow.
Do you think, or do archaeologists, to your knowledge, do they use geometry like this or sacred geometry to look for corresponding dig sites?
That would be I think an interesting thing an interesting approach, because to me, X marks the spot.
Yeah. Right. Because I'm looking at your picture there, and I'm thinking, okay, if the sacrificial stone or that table there, that's where those two lines cross. Well, if some lines of other significance cross in a different spot, why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
If they had that much importance to the people of that time, why wouldn't they symbolize it with something specific, either buried there or built up there, or something was once there and they can find evidence of it at one time? I mean, just like with your spiral with the pyramids, I can't help but think that there's something in that graveyard.
Yeah.
Something significant. It may not be like this some grandiose thing, but maybe to people at that time, it was a significant place for whatever reason.
Right. But if it would just be interesting to me to see if modern day archaeologists were like, yeah, we didn't really want to say anything, but yeah, that sacred geometry stuff that actually helped us find a ton of things.
Do you think do you think there is some kind of conspiracy theory about it? I mean, do you think that Da Vinci, I'm a huge Dan Brown fan because I like history and I like historical fiction, or taking true things and kind of twisting things around them. I think is a lot of fun. But do you think that you talk about how sacred it was to certain people that you can't talk about it outside your circle of friends, and then you think of like the Da Vinci Code, and you think of all these pretty astounding minds working together and kind of all coming to one agreement about the way things are lined up and the way things are mapped out. And then it makes sense to me that people would be like nervous about it.
Sure.
And it makes me, I don't know, it seems kind of creepy in the sense of, no, it doesn't seem creepy. Bad word. It just seems kind of interesting that I don't think it's a mistake, or it's some kind of like offhand thing that movie and that book and some of the history that we know is based off of some of these things that are true facts. These mathematical things you're showing are all true.
When you asked that question, I instantly thought of who was the saint that made, if it wasn't for him, the Bible wouldn't have been transcribed into all the different languages so that everybody, he was the reason why the common man was able to read the Bible for themselves.
King James, isn't he the first one?
No.
Was he a Roman leader?
No, he was a monk. He was a priest.
Oh, he wasn't. Okay, so he
yeah,
wasn't.
I'm sure it's going to hit me like a thunderbolt here in a little bit, but it was his idea. He was actually killed as a
heretic or something?
Yes, he was killed as a heretic because his belief was, you shouldn't have to be a priest, because at that time in history, the only way you heard, the only way you got the message of spirituality was from the priests, who did not tell you how to read the Bible.
That was
right?
his power.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to overlay that scenario with what you were just asking. Like, why do you think it's held back? Okay. So when he made it so that the common man could read the Bible, at that point, that's when you start having offshoots. This is a different type of Christianity, and here's a different type of Christianity, and here's another offshoot of Christianity, because the more people read it, the more people see it under their own view. And, now wars are starting to happen. So if the people in the know, if there is a people in the know, and they were to say, yeah, this is actually the underlying truth to everything. If you understand this stuff, we're basically unlocking Pandora's box. We're the priests holding back this knowledge, maybe not even holding it back, but we're not advertising it, because if we were to advertise it and let everybody know, we're afraid that a similar reaction would happen. The same thing as what happened with that monk who let all the peasants able to read the Bible. God, I wish I could remember what that dude's name was.
Well, is that where we get like the Illuminati? And I mean, those things are all kind of like religious based kind of, the Illuminati came from 1776. I guess it's kind of an American thing, but I thought that it was
really,
what's one of the ideas behind it is that was it. Those are all the enlightened thinkers at the time, how they were putting together a country. Okay. So that's kind of the idea behind it. But I wonder, you see a lot of that same symbolism. In like the pyramid on the dollar bill. I mean, it just seems like they kind of fit together.
Sure.
And instead of turning it into something creepy, or something weird and conspiracy kind of vein, I think it'd be cool just if it was just common knowledge. Why does it have to be weird? This is a truth. What you did with the computer up there was a truth. This is the mathematics.
Who knows, 100, 200 years from now, and they reveal, or something is dug up.
Somebody listens to this podcast and they say,
oh my God.
Richard
you know what? Somebody could listen to this podcast and they're like, wait a second, we're going to do the spiral thing. We're going to the cemetery. No one's looking. Let's bust open this gate. Let's send it. I mean, today, I watched that documentary, or I watched that YouTube special years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago. And 3 or 4 years ago, we didn't have robotic drones like we have today. Like little kids can have their little drones that they're flying on their iPhone,
Right.
What happens 10 years from now? What are people going to have? And they're like, go ahead and put a stupid ass gate on there. I'm going to drive.
I'm going to fly my hummingbird.
I'm going to fly my little hummingbird drone.
Have you seen that drone?
No.
It's a hummingbird.
It's the size of a hummingbird.
And it has cameras on it, and it looks like a hummingbird, so you can't tell if it is or isn't. And it just sits there and hovers and does all the things.
Crazy.
It's sick is what it is.
But people are going to be able to do things that we today are thinking, no, that's never going to happen. Somebody's going to be able to find a way to actually get down into that chamber in the Sphinx. They keep building up the Sphinx, and they're doing like a shitty job of it.
Because watch it be like Al Capone's tomb or something. It's like, there's this new shit underneath here. You just don't know what it is. But at the same time,
nothing.
That person, but one person's trash is another person's treasure. So that's what I meant. Maybe that tomb doesn't unlock the Library of Alexandria or something, but maybe it is. We find something that makes sure that we understand that if it was a significant spot for whatever reason,
right?
Yeah.
All right, sir. Keep blowing our minds. You got some more stuff for there?
Well, just getting back to the Sphinx, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some kind of knowledge there underneath, because when you look at ancient cultures and even some of the modern libraries today, they're all guarded by a lion. And I think there might be some tie there.
That is a cool observation right there.
Interesting thing. So, getting back to numbers and that sort of thing, we have the flower of life, which is the 19 circles. Well, there's something called the seed of life, which is actually the inner core. It's that inner 7 circles. Cool thing about 7, again, a significant number. Like in the Bible, the creation story is 7 days. There's a really big tie with how these circles interact with that story. The cool thing about this is, also our heart is based on 7 layers of muscle. There are 7 layers of muscle that, control the pumping of our heart. And a torus, mathematically and geometrically, if you mapped out the surface of the torus and you put as many colors as you could where they were to all still be able to touch one another, the most you could get is 7. And so...
I love it when things that fall together.
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a religious guy? In the sense of maybe, I mean like the religious sense, like a born-again Christian or a Lutheran or Catholic or.
I've been down that road.
Okay.
I consider myself more spiritual now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the way we follow until we hear. I'm not going to say it doesn't exist, and I'm not going to say it does because I don't have any proof yet. So
right. Absolutely. And the cool thing about what my approach is I'm just trying to take the stories that we've heard as kids and put some numbers behind it and see how
put some truth in it. In my mind, I mean, holy cow, that's significant. All those 40 days and 40 nights and 40 years. I mean, that's significant for sure.
Yeah. And even. I could be wrong on this, but I know for sure the Tibetan rosary has 108 beads on it. And I don't know if the Catholic rosary does or not, what the number is, but I think it's probably going to be a very significant number if we were able to find that out.
I'll Google it. I'll Google it right now.
Yeah. But anyway, 108 goes back to the earth and the moon. And we saw it, on the churches and the old cathedrals and stuff. 108 is the radius. It's a proportion of the radius of the moon.
That's so interesting. It's still hard for me to get conceptually, but I can see the I can see the correlation
right there. Look at that, 108 beads.
There you go.
Wow. Do you ever get frustrated by people like me? Who are just kind of like,
what's wrong with you? What are you doing?
Well, I'm just saying that I'm just not getting it. And you're like, I just showed you fucking 100 slides on a projector that's telling you this.
But
what aren't you getting?
You think about how long. I know, but wait.
Yeah.
You think about how long he's been doing this. There's so much stuff that he's throwing at us, and I'm catching only a little bit of it. Truly, I'm only appreciating a little bit of what he's all he's throwing at me. And for the last 6 years, I find myself for hours on end looking at stuff like this. Whereas this is completely new to you and you're like, okay, 108, 7, yeah. But it's one of those things that I think that this podcast tonight, if you're listening to it or if you're watching it, and if it just strikes just a little bit, if it just creates a little bit of an itch that you need to scratch to investigate more, you're going to find yourself just enthralled with how many things does this touch?
Yeah.
And how many things can you prove by it? And holy shit, and this fall, just like you, putting in the patterns. Oh my God, look how interesting this is.
Yeah. Yeah. If nothing else, it's pretty cool.
Right. and Todd's like, yeah.
I heard that Barack Obama and Jay-Z are now the head of the Illuminati. That's what I heard. It's just transferred power.
And that's why we're never going to build a fucking pyramid.
Because why?
Because of that. Dude, I'm if it wasn't socially
there's pyramids involved.
Appropriate, so I'd be jerking it right now.
Ew.
But it's not socially appropriate. Because this is really neat stuff.
It is neat stuff.
This is neat. I mean, if
I want to know what is in that little cave.
All right, now if Rich wasn't sitting there, if a little green or gray alien was sitting there and he's like, okay, now if you just use the Fibonacci sequence and in this order and 108 and the rose, if you put all those things together, I'll show you how to levitate. You'd be like, what the fuck? Dude, this is amazing. It's only mundane because people distract themselves with stupid shit like what's her name's ass. Okay. You know what I mean? It's one of those it's just
we're feeding it though. I mean, people only get, there's only going to be, you only get what you want, you know, so they only have reality shows because people will watch reality shows.
The Taurus right there in the seed of life, if Rich doesn't step on it here, and I don't mean hurry it up. I mean, if you don't talk about it in a little bit, remind me of the seed of life, because if you actually turn those circles into spheres.
Yeah.
Are you going to touch on that?
Oh, go ahead.
It actually is the beginnings of life when a cell divides and then divides again. It looks just like that. Yeah. The seed of life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That group of cells, that group of 7.
Sure.
And the cool thing about that is the heart is the first thing that develops. When you've got all those cells together, the first thing you have is the heart. And out of that, the body grows.
And you can see that beating pretty early too.
Yeah.
So to correlate something that we can now prove with a microscope, and then you're like, okay, so that picture, we can correlate that now because we have a microscope and those are the cells. But they were using that picture way the fuck back then.
Yeah.
And they were calling it the seed of life. And this is kind of the seed of life. And then they were, once again, mind blown, because there's something we're missing. There's we're looking at a puzzle. We're looking at like a billion piece puzzle with a tiny little pin light. We're like, okay, we see that little piece. And even in that little spot of light, we only see like some pieces that kind of are touching. And there's a huge picture that we're not seeing. And it just is, to me, I just want to turn on the floodlight and be like, oh my God, what's that big ass picture that we're not seeing?
Maybe you can't handle it. Maybe that's why it's being revealed slowly over time.
Yeah, that's it. I'm sure my grandfather felt the same way. I'm not going to see it all in my lifetime.
Right. That's what I mean. Maybe we're getting the glimpses that we need. You know, I don't know. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not.
Well, I am thankful for Rich coming in at night and showing us this. Now, Rich,
that's pretty awesome.
What else you got? I don't want to cut you short, buddy.
All right. I think, this is kind of the end of my presentation. Basically, again, I show how, in galactic systems, you have that toroidal energy field, and they've actually proven how the matter and everything kind of goes out to that rim of the galaxy, and then it just goes up and around and back down into that, donut hole and spirals down in. It's pretty cool stuff.
Is that is a black hole a part of that, like the center of that, or not? I don't know.
Absolutely. They used to think black holes were this mysterious thing out there, but actually they're now of the opinion that there's a black hole in the center of every galaxy, and
because every galaxy is shaped like that.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's and actually,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
We
hey, dummy, wake up.
No, I'm just excited. Sorry.
I'm joking. I know you're not being that.
But the cool thing is, my favorite physicist, Nassim Haramein, he actually, in that movie, The Black Hole, he's actually proven that there's a black hole in the center of every atom.
Oh wow! Is that considered like quantum mathematics?
Yeah,
kind of thing?
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So he's in.
That's awesome. Well, and my dad is kind of into a lot of that quantum stuff, and I'm not sure he's a little bit like me. He would really, really like to understand it, but I don't know how much he grasps it. But when he tries to describe it to me, it's kind of like extrapolating on some unknowns, but kind of working off of some of these ancient ways of thinking, and applying them, light years ahead. And like I mentioned, Interstellar. Yes. In that book, The Forever War, that's it, right? Okay,
Forever War. Good job.
They use. That quantum way of thinking is part of the math and all that stuff.
Yes,
like it's almost like the normal math now because we know they're that way and that's the way everything works. So I don't know. See, I'm getting excited. You happy?
Buddy, I know you're excited. I'm just more excited. I'm just. It's what, like I said, it's that magic. If you thought, or if you were down because you thought there was nothing special, there is something really neat out there.
And I think that when you take it, and I think that we don't, I think getting wrapped up in the mystery of a religion or a faith of something that's kind of like unproven, I think that it took us away or took our focus off of the things that can be proven.
Right. Yeah.
like some of these mathematics. And so that separation of science and religion, I think, we probably did ourselves a terrible disservice, because even if we tried to somehow correlate them together and make them work together, we still would have held on to some of that math. And you're talking about now where people are saying, I believe in God, not necessarily the science. And now it's having a pretty dire effect on all of us, because Jesus will come back and take me away, so I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah, that's,
you know what I mean?
That's kind of the ruination
right
of it, is people saying, "Oh, Jesus, I'm 600 pounds. Let me just pray my fat away. I'm going to give it to you, Lord. I'm just going to give it up to you," which means I give up. I can't do it.
I'm taking no responsibility for myself.
And hopefully tomorrow when I wake up, it'll be like a I Dream of Jeannie bullshit. And I'll wake up and I'm 200 pounds. Woohoo! Thank you, Jesus, for taking away the 400 pounds. No, you got to do it. You got to work hard. I only bring that up because we knew that one guy.
Yeah, I know.
Really
Still, but I mean, you're right though. It's the idea of not having to work for something and think about stuff.
Right.
It takes some thinking and some effort.
But with, and I really encourage people just to scratch the surface of sacred geometry, because to me, I think that is I don't mean to be disrespectful. I think it's like the elementary footsteps.
Oh, yeah,
that's
it is.
the beginning little footsteps
There's
on how you tie things together. And
there's a book for you, Sacred Geometry for Dummies. Perfect.
Sacred Geometry.
Yeah.
I would totally read that book, because it'd be for me.
Yeah, and to see and to have the pictures and the different.
Yeah, and keep it super simple, just super simple.
But that's like the beginning parts of people finding physicists. Not what am I looking for?
Not sure.
When people just come up with a hypothesis of quantum physics. I'm saying quantum physics. When somebody says something about quantum physics, you're like, okay, that's a theory, and how do you prove that? Just because you have a mathematical problem on this 40-foot chalkboard here in your classroom, how does that say anything about?
And quantum sounds mystical. It sounds like unsure, uncertain.
To me, quantum physics is like 80 miles.
Yeah,
I can't swim across an 80-mile lake, but I can swim across a pond. And sacred geometry is kind of like, hey, here's a pond. Let me show you how to swim across that pond. Oh, you got that, dummy? Oh, great. Hey, you got to cross that pond. Let me show you a little bit more.
Right.
And that hopefully will get people excited to go down the path and be able to jump into quantum physics. Because, you think quantum physics, you're like, I can't even wrap my mind around it, so I'm not even going to pay attention.
I've heard somebody on Joe Rogan's podcast kind of like talk about quantum physics in a very simple way. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I don't remember it, but I remember, you know what I'm saying? But I was able to go, oh, okay. It's, it's like when you said donut.
Yeah.
There you go. I was like, oh, I know what you're talking about. I have had a donut before. So this is, so it's cyclical. It comes out and it comes back around again.
Yeah.
It makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
I know it's terrible that I have to be,
I'm gonna type. Oh, which I'm looking for the
excuse me,
the constellation, the bird constellation.
You said swan or something too.
Yeah,
I've seen stained glass windows that have that. What's the fulcrum? That's not it. What's the curve and the square around it called? You said it's called you had the pyramids and the line.
Oh, the quantum cross.
Yeah, but what's the
the Fibonacci spiral?
Fibonacci spiral.
Yeah,
I've seen stained glass. I've seen some stained glass like that. Yeah. I wonder how small it got. I wonder how far they went in there. But I know my grandmother used to do stained glass, and I remember seeing something. I don't think she made it, but she was showing me something. I remember seeing that spiral in there. So who are you looking up?
I'm trying to find the image of that damn bird.
The damn bird.
God damn.
Richard, are you done with your presentation?
Oh, yeah. Here's a tesseract here. It's also called a hypercube.
All right, that's freaking me out.
Yeah. And so this is an example of what the fifth dimension would be like. You're basically, so imagine this room, we're inside that little cube that's inside of that bigger cube. And then, as time expands, you just sort of fold in and out of each other, and, everything is right there.
That is trippy.
Now just think if we were smoking pot or doing some mushrooms, looking at that.
I think it'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait.
So yeah,
Wow.
that's a kind of another way of showing that, where they had in the end of that movie, where he was in there with all those bookcases and stuff.
Right.
That's really kind of the model of what that was all
Interesting.
about.
Oh man.
All right.
That's so cool.
I found it.
What's it?
Deneb.
Deneb. Okay, what about Deneb?
Let me see. Oh, right here. The constellation Deneb.
Well, I was going to say, Richard, are you finished? Because you could take over. You could take your
Yeah.
HDMI cable back
Okay,
once he's
put it
done.
back.
Yep,
Okay.
All right.
Okay. But I don't want to cut you short if it's.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So let's see here.
A very distant and very luminous star. I see that.
Did you just type that in? Deneb?
Deneb. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Earth sky updates on your cosmos and world. That's kind of neat.
All right. So I'm going to type in Deneb overlay the pyramids.
I've not seen anything, buddy. I think you're pretty messed up here.
Oh, no.
I'm just kidding.
All right. Here we go. So this is how the pyramids fall into perfect representation with Deneb.
Oh,
Okay. The tail is where the guy found
That
the
graveyard,
cemetery.
the
And if you
Ah.
look at it, sir, if you look at this, there's the Sphinx, and that would be where your origin,
Oh, exactly.
your
Yeah.
origin
yeah.
point is.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
I almost want to hoot and holler.
That
I almost want to hoot and holler right
that's
now.
awesome.
You gotta put
Oh, yeah.
you gotta put Deneb over the pattern that you had on top of the pyramids and see
Yeah.
how they correlate. That'd be kind of cool to see if it's if it
Yeah.
just fits the right.
Yeah,
similarly.
Yeah, I had to
because-
orient myself first. That's upside down.
Yeah,
upside down,
backwards,
yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
That's awesome.
Did it give you chills a little bit?
Oh yeah. That's perfect.
You guys are two peas in the pod. Gave me chills because I have to go to the bathroom really bad.
Well, go.
I'm teasing
okay.
you.
I only here's probably a better picture. This is more right side up.
That right there was it. Oh, not that one.
No. Yeah, I'll back up here.
That
here.
right there is the perfect orientation of what you
Yeah,
had, right?
yeah.
Okay.
And there's something about Deneb specifically. If you type that into YouTube and watch whatever you can on Deneb, Deneb, and the pyramids, you're going to come across a video where the guy finds the tomb in the graveyard, and it's all very, very cool. And it has nothing to do with Orion's belt.
Wow.
And what do you think? I mean, what is your take on all of this? When you see that, or you see what you've discovered, what you found, what is your thinking about it? Is there, and I don't mean like a higher thinking necessarily, like, oh, this must be aliens, or this must be something else. I mean, what do you extrapolate from all this, or this is just stuff that's been constant for a long time?
Well, the cool thing is finding it in all of these different areas, all these different cultures that have the same stuff going on.
Sure.
And to me, it's like, we're all more alike than we think. And, even by looking at the stories of the different religions and finding the tie and the correlation in the numbers.
The similarities.
Yeah, and the similarities, and to me, it's like, okay, all these different religions, they're all looking at the same thing. It's like have you ever heard the story about the three blind men that try to describe an elephant, each trying to touch a different part? One guy's holding the tail, and he said, well, the elephant's like a little worm. And the other guy is holding onto the trunk, and he says, well, it's a big snake. And then another guy, he's holding on to, his leg, and he says, oh, it's like a tree trunk. And, they're describing the same thing just from different perspectives.
Well, and I think the idea too is if you can find all the similarities, we have less differences and we have less things to argue and go to war about, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Rich, I really hope that this is another thing that I can give to you to get you
All right.
even more excited. Have you heard of the ringing stones?
Yes,
Sir.
I have.
Gosh darn it. I was hoping to pop your cherry with this one. The ringing stones. Todd, have you heard of them?
No.
Okay. That doesn't surprise me, but I'm glad nonetheless. These stones, these pictures that you see here, are found all over Africa, I believe. All over.
Yeah.
And what the consensus is, you see all these lines, Todd, coming
Yes.
off of that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, those are all ringing stones. Okay? And
Literally meaning if you strike them with a piece of metal, they ring.
it sounds like a bell.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
Okay.
bell. Yes.
Got a YouTube video of that happening?
Yeah.
You have enough
Did-
tabs open there, buddy.
Do I? All right. I look like you right now. I
Yeah,
got with your
that
computer.
was my chance.
All right. Let me type in the ringing stones. There's a guy right here. This guy right here, Michael Tellinger. He gives a presentation. Oh my God! I'm sorry about this, everybody. I apologize.
What you say goes.
Okay.
I can't wait for that season to start.
This guy right here, I'd love to have him on the podcast. Also,
I'm going to show you some of.
he's amazing. Have you seen this guy, Rich?
Yeah.
Ah, see, you and me.
Cool. He's cool.
This
Yes.
particular stone in my hand
If he comes, invite me.
This
Okay,
beautiful Stone
done.
Age club. It looks like something out of Flintstones. I'm going to show you how they ring like bells because I can't carry these with me all over the world. So a quick demonstration how these stones ring like bells. I just discovered that in geological terms, these stones, this particular stone, the hornfels in South Africa, is also known as ringstone for that very specific reason. And to ring these, I'm going to use my brand new tool that I just collected about a week ago, this phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal artifact. And
Those
I'm
are
going to
cool
use
too.
this to ring these stones. This looks, we always joked when I found this, that this looks like a Stone Age guitar. And it's pretty much like that, you know. And I'm going to show you that it is very closely related to a musical instrument in ancient times for a very specific reason. Now, you might think that the stone shape is just accidental and that it broke off or something. You'd be mistaken, because I've collected probably about 4 or 5 stones that are very, very similar in shape, very similar carving structure. There's broad base here and then down to a narrow tip, and somebody removed this particular piece of the stone over there for specific reasons, as you will hear, which I'll ring a little bit more. They ring like bells. But it's also important to note that you cannot carve or chip the stone.
All right. I'm going to stop it there for just a second. This guy just said, you might think that this shape is by accident. No. It's very specific. These stones were shaped like this, right?
But they can't be shaped.
And he just said they cannot be chipped or shaped.
So somebody,
It's just an unknown. I'm only throwing it out there because it's one more mystery. You pull back the curtain and you're like, oh, there's the old man. You're the fucking wizard. And then you realize that there's another curtain that we need to pull back again because there's more questions.
okay.
And
It will splinter and fragment, and it will not be chipped or carved. Okay, so these shapes that we see here must have been molded in some way, and molded for specific acoustic properties. And this is why. You've got to hold it in a very specific way to make as little contact as possible to get it to ring and resonate at its optimum. Now remember, it's also covered in patina. The skin of the rock, this brown reddish color that covers the rock, that is no longer the original black or charcoal color, the original color of the metamorphosized quartzite that's underneath. And that's how it rings. I can actually feel my fingers underneath are deadening the ringing because I'm holding it and it's deadening some of the effect. There we go. That's better.
All right. So you might think, big fucking deal. It's a stone that rings. But here is actually the YouTube video, the presentation that he gives, Michael Tellinger's presentation at BEM 2012. He's running for president in Africa.
Oh, okay.
And he talks about the ringing stones. I'm not going to play it. I'm sorry.
Sure.
But if you type that in, Michael Tellinger's presentation at BEM 2012, if you watch that, he explains the ringing stones and he talks about all these different pictures of the ringing stones and his correlation between that and Sitchin's theories on ancient people. Do you know about that also?
Zachariah Sitchin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Todd's
I'm
just
all alone. All alone.
But there are, you can actually, there's some very large ringing stones, and you can actually date it. One of these huge ringing stones, you can date it because of that patina that he was talking about, right?
Okay.
So it's an organism. The patina is like an organism, right? But he said it moves so slowly across the surface. It only grows. You can measure the rate of growth, right? If you were to scratch it, you could measure.
Because it's a living organism.
Right.
Okay.
But there's these huge ringing stones that are scratched or carved that still have the black stone. And he's saying this stone was placed here thousands of years ago. And you can measure that from the patina that's not here in this scratch.
Oh, gotcha.
Because it would take so long to cover it. Crazy. But these pictures here of these circles or these clusters that come out, and like I said, you can see them under all the vegetation. His hypothesis is that these ringing stones were built up like a wall and then used as capturing frequency and used as a power device. That those frequencies would resonate through the stones, and then they would be captured and go through all the clusters, and then each cluster would be connected to another cluster. Like these ringing stones were like, look at this picture here. They're pretty high. Some of them are taller than a man, right? And then others you can barely see underground. And what he's thinking is that at some point in time, like pre-Noah's flood era, that these stones were used for a power source, and that the majority of these stones that you can't see you only see really from an aerial view,
right,
is basically from the flood coming in and the sediment washing into the stones and creating that new that
and
new
that's why
floor.
they're underground, because it brought in soil.
Right. So his hypothesis is this is a working thing that was created by ancient people. It's a structure, or it's a complex of structures that was here before Noah. That was here before the flood, if you want to say Noah, whatever.
Right.
But it was here before the flood, and it's crazy. It's amazing. It's amazing. He does a much better, awesome job of presenting that idea in his YouTube video, but I didn't know if you had heard of that.
Yeah, I did. And remember the ice cream cone shaped stone that he was striking that with?
Yes.
Did you hear that story too?
Yes.
About the Coral Castle?
I haven't.
Yes.
Okay.
How possibly the
Yeah.
guy used cone shaped devices in his hand that it's going to sound crazy sci-fi-ish,
Yeah.
but that it radiates energy, and where those energy beams crossed,
Right.
you could resonate. It would create a frequency that would harmonize with the coral with that block, and he could basically levitate it up and move it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds crazy. Yeah. But guess what?
But cool if it was true.
Cool if it was
But
true.
cool if it was true.
And an old man in a cloud is ridiculous, even more ridiculous than that, as far as I'm concerned. So
True.
you never know.
And until somebody were to say, I figured it out,
Yeah.
watch me do it.
Yeah.
I'm going to build an entire coral castle, or I'm going to move this half a median ton block of the pyramids. I'm going to move it from here to there all by myself. If some dude did that, I'd be like, all right, that's how they did it. I'm done.
Right.
I'm done. You figured it out.
But yeah, I mean, you find somebody who knows that or can do that. I mean, that would, well, even if they made it to see daylight, it would fundamentally change the entire planet.
You think so?
Oh my God! It's
Well,
free,
I mean, we're talking about free energy.
Free energy.
Yeah.
It's free energy. It's somebody able to do just about anything. They want to do with that kind of power. That's amazing.
But the torus, that shape of the torus, that also has to do with free energy.
Yes. Yes.
Because there's other YouTube videos out there.
Yeah.
There's tons out there that
that
you
talk
want
specifically
free
about
energy.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the best one I've ever seen is what's that mirror onto that thing that heats it up and it cranks humongous mirror.
It's a Stirling. You use
Thank you.
a Stirling motor.
The Stirling motor.
Stirling motor, and you use a Fresnel lens.
And it heats it up and it runs off.
Well, yeah, I
Energy.
mean, a Stirling motor is gonna run off heat applied to it. Any
Okay.
heat applied to it. But
So you
can
put it on the stove at night when you're going to bed. It would turn a fan.
Yeah, but yes. But the cool part about the Stirling motor is during a peak time of when the sun is out, you can use a Fresnel lens, and a Fresnel lens is something that was on old timey big screen TVs. Okay, I bought one. Right? Do you remember me buying one?
Yeah. I do.
Because you could, if you put it out like at noon on a hot summer day, it doesn't even really need to be hot. But if it was like a direct light,
Sunlight?
like hardcore sunlight, you could burn a hole in a brick with a Fresnel lens with something from a big screen TV. And I always thought that was cool. But if you could apply that to a Stirling motor, if you could focus it just right, and if your Fresnel lens rotated with the curvature of the Earth, if it kept moving with the rotation of the sun, you could have free energy. That Stirling motor would pump out that piston
Right.
over and over and over again. Right.
That's
So
I
what
was
were you
thinking.
saying? What were you thinking?
I don't know what I was thinking.
You started
Maybe
with
it's-
this.
yeah.
You started with no.
Well, I was thinking about the free energy in the sense
Okay.
of the torus. It's hard for me. Why am I thinking a bowl? What's a bowl and this donut have to do with each other? Why am I? Or is Taurus just? I'm associated with a.
You're thinking of the
The sign.
constellation Taurus and the bull.
Yeah.
And how does that correlate? How does that correlate with that shape? And how does that correlate?
Or just the name.
See, I didn't think so either, but
Just similar name. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. I just want to make sure there wasn't one more goddamn connection we guys are making. All right. Just kidding.
But I would highly recommend watching Michael Tellinger's. Now that is 2 hours long if you want to watch his presentation.
I couldn't do it. Sorry.
Well, here's the thing. When he starts talking about free energy, like everything up to that point, you're like, man, that is really interesting. But then he kind of goes down this road of, I'm running for president and we have to get away from money. And then he starts going down this path of, okay, all right, dude, you had me at hello and you lost me at, well, wait, you lost me somewhere along the line.
Right.
So maybe just an hour in, if you just watch the first hour or if you watch the whole thing and you're like, I really did not agree with that shit at the end, watch just 1 hour and it's just fascinating. It's fascinating what he thinks possibly those things are. And you know what those people are calling it? Those ringing stones are like, ancient people just use those as fences for their cattle. So this guy's like, all right, hold on. So back in the day when you people, and I think those you people are like historians, those types of that league of people. He's saying, all right, so back in the day, you're saying that only a few thousand people were living here. right? Way, way, way back in the day. The creation of life. This is the cradle of life. This is where everybody came from. Right. So there's only a few thousand people. So you're saying all of these structures, all of these things that has no door, has no exit, no openings at all. They're circles.
Right.
No openings, no windows. Those were for cattle.
Right.
Doesn't that sound really fucking stupid?
Yeah, you could just build a wall that's shoulder high to a cow, and you'd probably be okay. You'd have to build these humongous.
Why would you?
that would have no?
How could
opening.
anybody go? Hey, that's a circle. There's no wall. I'm sorry. There's no door. There's no window. Yeah, that was for penning up animals. How?
Which is why it goes back to the theory of them being some way of containing energy, because they're a perfect circle, aren't they?
Well, yeah.
Well, not perfect, but
Especially in like this picture here is kind of a good representation of somehow they used it. His hypothesis, somehow they used it. And the energy that was built up here would then go down this trail of ringing stones to the next cluster. And it would continue on and continue on and continue on. And that idea correlates back to Sitchin's, Zechariah Sitchin's idea of the Anunnaki back during Sumer, right? And
it's okay. Keep going. Don't
the
stop.
Epic of Gilgamesh, right? Are you still with me at least?
I'm
All
with
right.
you. Yep.
Thank you, Rich.
Keep it from me, my smart friend tonight.
my
smart friend.
But it goes back to them, back to the Anunnaki and the stories that the Sumerians told about this race of giants, this group of giants that came from the heavens that went to Africa to mine for gold. And here's all of these geometric patterns in this landscape that nobody can really truly understand, that resonate a frequency that has a certain resonance to it. And if you can harness that, if you take the basic ideas of Tesla and resonance and sound waves and the power of those things, you can traverse dimensions. You have a tool to create like a War of the Worlds, like laser type of thing. You have the ability to create free energy, resonance, and sound waves, and all that stuff play together. And it's just it's like you're missing just a couple of links to say, or just a couple of pieces of proof to go, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's why it's spooky. This kid, it seems like a couple more pieces in that puzzle, and holy shit,
you're closer to me. You're closer to link. It's much easier to link that to the Sumerian stories and the Anunnaki. It's easier to. You're so much closer to doing that than you are going, yeah, just angels showed up and
right. No, absolutely. Because I mean, that's some solid proof. They talked about those things. You know, they're written down.
Yeah. Have I blown your mind? Has this been okay for you tonight, Rich?
This has been great.
Has it been all right? Good, man. Awesome. I've basically shown everything I know. I'm spent.
This is the best part, is if Rich was giving a class, you'd be the kid in the front row.
Oh yeah, I'd be like, no, I know that one. I know that one. Rich, I know that one. Everybody,
I'd be the one like taking copious notes. Fuck, I'll come back and read these.
Yeah,
later.
you'd be the guy in the back of the class going, "Would you shut the fuck up in the front?" Oh yeah, look, your arms up again, douche.
I'd be taking notes like, okay, if I read this 3 times, it might make sense to me.
Either that, or you'd come up to me after class and go, "Dude, how about you and I get a beer?" And we become really good friends.
I'll just become Rich's TA. Maybe at some point, if I bust my ass, he'll break it down for me.
Well, I am fascinated by all this stuff.
It's intriguing, that's for sure.
I hope you look more into that Deneb thing with the
I
pyramids.
want to see that Deneb thing put over the top of the thing you've already done, and see if there's any like any of those lines line up or anything like that.
I'm totally going to do that.
That's so cool.
I'm glad that you had to pull away something from. I'm glad I could give
that's
you
awesome.
something tonight.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
Todd, we're gonna wrap this up. Todd, tell people what they need to know. Besides this stuff, besides sacred geometry,
Yes, sir.
the next most important thing is what?
Go to TPSP Productions. And on that page at the top right-hand corner, you'll see it'll say shows. If you click on that, there's all our shows. The Primal Scream, the Count to 10 podcast, the Bandwagon podcast.
There's also
Click on-
Todd's blog.
And Todd's blog. I get on there once in a while.
Todd, how you been?
I'm
on that?
sporadic. I'm sporadic.
Are you?
I kick out 3 or 4 in a day, and then it's like silence for a week. And then anyways, so yeah, Todd's blog's on there as well. But go ahead and go to the Primal Scream. That's us, and you can follow us on Stitcher and iTunes and YouTube and Twitter and Pinterest. And oh my god, I'm gonna
Hey,
bash
you know
my
what?
head against the ground.
Just click on the box
Yeah.
with the corresponding name.
There you
You
go.
want to go to Stitcher? Click on the little box that says Stitcher. You want to go to Twitter? Click on that box.
And while you're on there, when you're on Facebook, or if you're on Stitcher, or you're on Twitter, or you're on iTunes, please get on there and review us. Give us a review, subscribe. Those are the kind of things that people and advertisers look for. Is you clicking on all those wonderful things, and you can really help
Possible new sponsors.
us out. You never know. So
You
that's the
never,
best way to
never
find
do.
us. Also,
You know what else? This isn't necessarily for you, but it's for me and my other business partner. If you like the show, or if you like the Bandwagon or any of the other stuff that we do, there's a little button. If you go to the top, if you go to the very, very top, you scroll down just a little bit. I need to make this button much bigger. I need to make the button much, much bigger. It says help support the studio. Okay? Help support the studio. If you can, and I hope you can, click on it. Be charitable. Help us out. It helps pay the bills. It helps pay for equipment. It helps make the show better. It just helps make the show be better. And it helps us bring more shows to you. But
And-
that's for TPSP production. That's my
well, and why
that's
don't
my
you do
part.
your Indiegogo plug?
The
before we tie into-
Indiegogo.
Yep.
The Indiegogo. Okay, so everybody knows that we did the Kickstarter campaign. We did all right. Wow. We did all right, but we didn't do great. We didn't hit our goal, so all those donations went back to the people who donated to us. If you go to Indiegogo, this is the second time in this podcast that I've talked about it. Go to Indiegogo.com, type in TPSP. That will bring up like a little microphone with like a, what's it called? Like a shutter. And it will say TPSP Productions. Click on that. Go to that page. And then donate if you can. And the cool thing is we have little, like, I don't know, prizes? Are they called prizes?
Mhm.
Okay. Little tiers, little prizes. One of the cool things, if you're a business and you want to donate because you like the shit out of the show, you really like it, but you want to have your own show. You want to come on the podcast, have your very own show. Talk about all your cool stuff.
We have one so far.
We do have one so far.
Yeah.
We have one. But this Indiegogo is a little bit different than Kickstarter. We actually get to keep the donations even if we don't hit our goal. Now, the goal, what we would love to create or reach is what?
In like a dream scenario?
Dream scenario.
15, 20,000?
Okay, but let's talk realistic. I would like
You
to
said
hit
dream scenario.
right, but I would like to hit 10 grand. If I could
That'd
hit,
be great.
If we could hit 10 grand, we could get some really good stuff. We could pump out like live shows. We could put shows out that night when we
15,
have
20
guests
is more
on.
like we have a crazy awesome studio. Or something.
Yeah, if it was 15 or 20, we could actually
you go.
move out of my basement. But Rich, you like this, right? It's
This is
comfortable.
great.
This
Yeah,
is good.
yeah, this is
That's
awesome.
Right?
I love how surprised people are when they come in. That, oh, thank goodness this isn't a dungeon.
I'm always nervous, like if a lady comes over by herself and she's thinking, I don't know these guys. I've never been here before. What kind of an environment am I walking into? Oh, your studio's in the basement? I'm nervous.
It's in here.
Yeah. Behind the cinder blocks
Yeah.
in my hand dug
Well,
basement.
I met Lori before she came in. with
Oh, okay.
Rich.
Well, I wasn't talking about Lori, but if you want to talk about Lori, go ahead.
No, and then I was going to say we've had Michelle had to ask the spirits to make sure she was safe before she came in, and she did. Good for her. That's
That's
smart.
right.
Nowadays, that's
right.
smart.
That's right.
So,
But if you watched it on YouTube, it's not a scary place.
No,
it's
it's
fine. It's fine. Anyway, go to Indiegogo. Give what you can. If you can't, that's fine. I understand. It's tough times. Send that link to your other friends on Facebook. Let's get the word out there. Please send it out. Use the social media. I'm pretty sure there's a couple of people on Facebook. There might be one or two people on Twitter. Send that out to those people.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so enough about us and enough about my groveling for money. Enough of that crap. Real quick, some businesses that we really appreciate that we believe a lot in, and I appreciate is Jeff Johnson with USAEntertainmentAgency.com. If you want a comedian, you want some entertainment, you go to that website. It's great. It's great. You can get whoever you want. Not whoever you want. That's too much. I went too far.
You can get any comedian that he has, I think.
Well, how about this? You can book a great fucking comedian.
Yeah.
You talk to them if you want something corporate, if you want something private, you get a hold of Jeff Johnson. Or if you're in the Cedar Rapids area, go down to penguinscomedyclub.com. He gets all the talent for there.
That's right. Their open nights on Wednesdays are great.
And you know who was just in? Miss Pat.
Miss Pat, yeah.
Yeah, you know who else was there? Doug Thompson, one of our favorite hypnotist comedians. Have you ever been hypnotized?
I have
Rich?
been. Yes.
You have been?
Yeah.
We're more alike than you know, mister. It's creepy.
All alone.
We might share some ice cream later.
I'm
just
all
saying. I'm just sharing. All right. So anyway, is there anything else? We talked about Indiegogo. We talked about...
Yeah, covered. I've got to tell you, Richard, I really appreciate you coming in because I don't think there's another podcast we've had, and this is our 77th, where I truly walked in really like not knowing what to expect, and I walk out with a little bit more than I thought I understood, but I can see all the correlations.
Yeah.
It's just right now they're all clicking and sparking in my brain. And I assume tonight when I fall asleep and my unconscious brain takes over, it'll all fit together.
Wouldn't that be crazy? That's something that I think is
neat.
Really kind of cool. God, somebody was just on the Joe Rogan podcast. He was voted the party animal down in Florida. He's got a beard, great smile. What's his name? Damn it. But he's talking about how he has vivid, lucid dreams. He does lucid dream. Did you listen to that?
Joe Rogan's always talking about lucid dreaming.
But he can't this guy can't shut it off now. He can't shut it off. And he says now he's going to start a podcast where what he has been doing is he'll wake up and he'll call his buddy and he'll leave his dream on. He'll tell him his dream on his answer machine, on his voicemail. And that's it. That's the whole podcast. It's just his dreams.
Oh, that's kind of neat.
Because they're so vivid and they're so crazy. And he can wake up from a dream and be like, oh shit, I need to take care of that. Like if he's having a nightmare where I think he gave the example that there was a cop who was being a dick and he woke up and he's like, no, I got to get back there and kick that guy's ass. He went back to sleep and he was able to pick up where he left off. I don't know.
Have you ever had a lucid dream before?
Yeah.
Where you could control. I want to say, I think I remember one time in my life where I was like very aware that I was dreaming, and isn't that kind of what a lucid dream is? You know you're dreaming. Kind of?
You know you're dreaming, and you can control it. I've done it before where hey, I'm dreaming, so I can fly, and I do.
You can do anything.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
Well, and I think Alpha Brain from Onnit's supposed to help with lucid dreaming too, right?
Yeah.
Look at him. He's like, yeah.
There's a.
I drop that Onnit shit all the time.
Have you heard of that? Have you heard of Onnit and Alpha Brain?
I've heard of alpha waves before, and then there's another one called binaural beats, and that's something that you can listen to that kind of gets your brain all tuned up and ready for that. And
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh well, maybe that's where they got the name from.
Bert Kreischer. Bert. You know the show Hurt Bert.
Oh, so his most recent one is Bert Kreischer.
Yeah.
Well, because he's
episode 620.
He was talking with Brian Regan that he wants to have somebody on the podcast who's an expert in lucid dreaming. So that must be.
So they were trying to talk Bert Kreischer into just having his own podcast. So that's all he does. He goes, I have 30 dreams a night. Can you imagine having 30 lucid? I only brought this up. I got down this avenue of thought because you were saying you were going to go home and you were going to think about it. Can you imagine having a lucid dream about sacred geometry and shit's just clicking?
How about a DMT trip that you're just like all of a sudden everything's laid out before you?
Listen, I don't do anything illegal.
Neither do I, but it sounds like that you're in touch with a whole nother way of thinking about things. And so part of me thinks that maybe that's one of the reasons why that would be an interesting thing to have happen. I listened to, remember Joe Rogan, we've heard people talk about bad trips and things like that,
Sure.
whether it's mushrooms or acid
Sure.
or DMT.
Yeah.
And he says it's absolutely all about the setting. You're not by yourself and everybody's whacked out together in a room drinking beer and eating pretzels. You're in a quiet area and you're taking care of it, and somebody's taking care of you, and you enter it in a very calm, thoughtful manner. You don't do it haphazardly, and that's how you have bad trips. Is you're in the wrong frame of mind.
I think Rich is like,
Rich is digging it.
I'd be down with that. How about the three of us go do an ayahuasca trip?
And we all could just cry together.
No. See, I would only do it if I knew one person was completely sober and like, no one's fucking with my buddies.
No, totally.
All right?
That's what I'm saying.
You guys get fucked up now. You shit yourselves and you puke and I'll do all that stuff. I'm gonna stand over you. I'm gonna make sure nobody messes with you. But tomorrow, you guys are watching me and I'm getting blasted.
Well, I think the bigger thing that I've learned over time with, especially Joe Rogan's podcast, is this whole DMT ayahuasca thing. Is they go into it saying, "This is not something for you to, hey, let's try this and see what happens, man." Yeah. It's not like that at all. You better be prepared to go through some shit because it's not just eating a pot brownie and having a good time with your buddies. It's a serious thing.
Now, Rich, I just came back from Cancun.
Okay.
With my wife. And when we showed up to our hotel, I need to cut this off. But I got to the hotel and who's the guy who sets everything up?
Concierge?
The concierge. Oh, you want a whore? All right. You want a cigar? Whatever. But so he's laying out like, what all can you do? And he's like, and if you want some mushrooms, you can go.
He didn't say that.
Yes, he did say that. If you want some mushrooms, you go here. And I thought, I'm sitting there with my wife, and I'm thinking,
what kind of hotel's he staying at?
I'm
going there for sure.
If I was with Todd,
it'd be done.
We would probably be baked. I need to get a list of all the things they don't test me for at work.
You have to stop using terms like bake, because baked is pot. If you're going to do a mushroom trip, that's going to be a whole nother game.
You know what? I'm at a certain age right now where I want to experience the life that I've led so far is that shaken up soda that you've already opened and it's sitting in the refrigerator for 5 days. You have been using that
analogy a ton lately.
I know, but it's perfect. You think it's going to be flavorful and yummy, and you go take a drink and you're like, ugh, that's gross. That's been my life for 40 years.
Because you've been kind of sheltered and you sold a bill of goods that sucks.
I've done the norm. I've done the norm, and I'm so used to it. I've done. Hey man, I've done it. You wake up, you do your normal thing. You go to bed. Next morning, hey, I guess I'm gonna do the exact same fucking thing today. I've done that for the last 40 years.
Right.
I would love to try something completely different, and that may open me up to having a new experience.
Yeah.
That if it touched me or put me in the avenue or the fast lane of sacred geometry, or I could see those symbols, which a lot of people claim that they see.
There's supposedly a lot of sacred geometry is seen in some of those DMT.
I was joking with my wife after we left that guy when he said we could have some mushrooms. I was joking with my wife a little bit, and she goes, would you really? I'm like, well, you know what? I was actually hoping he was going to say something like ayahuasca, like you could have an ayahuasca trip down here. She goes, why do you want to do this?
It's like a 3 or 4 day thing too.
Yeah. She goes, why do you want, they do have them down there in Cancun. You just have to sign up for it. But anyway, she goes, why would you want to do that? I go, because I have not heard one negative story about somebody going out and doing that, because it helps you look at all of your life experiences. And if you're holding on to shit that's making you a shitty person, you deal with it and then you let it go. And then you are looking at, what are you going to, what intent are you bringing down there? What do I want to be a better person? Do I want to understand sacred geometry? What's going on in my life? How can I be a better dad? Whatever it is. And then it's like life altering. Like you come back a different person.
Right.
And
Joe Rogan says you have to be careful because you're altered because you're down to a more honest and raw form of who you are. You don't come back and go, hey, nice to meet you. Who are you? kind of thing. You're just more of like understanding and thoughtful about what, like you said, your past, the life you've lived and how you've treated other people. And I want to say Brian Redband, somebody said they had a friend who they did a mushroom trip with, and he was just like, dude, I was such a horrible person. I can't believe all the terrible shit I've done. And, obviously going to go down a bad road. And then he's like, hey, listen, man, the best part is you don't have to be that way anymore.
Right.
And the guy was like, oh yeah, you're right, and turned the whole entire trip around.
But I mean, some people need that, and I'm 40 now, and I'm a human being. I'm a grown ass man, and
you turned 40
last December.
Man.
And if I want to have an experience, I should be able to fucking do that without the fear of being put in a cage.
Right.
I'm off my pedestal.
All
I'm
right.
off my soapbox. Rich, Moritz, thank you very much for coming in tonight. If you want to help Rich out, go to Sweet Raw Joy. Check out Lori Moritz's company, sweetrawjoy.com. Desserts to live for. They're delicious. They're wonderful. Order them today or go to your local Hy-Vee if you're in the Cedar Rapids area. They're expanding. I'm sure they're expanding out. What?
Good. No, I'm listening.
They're lovely.
They're awesome.
Key lime pie. That's like maybe possibly the new one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Love it. It's tart.
Anyway, that's it for tonight. I'm Matt.
I'm Todd.
And that's Rich. We'll see you later.
Adios.
Good night.